I need you to buy dinner ingredients for 30 people, cook and clean the house. You can rest, Sofia. If my husband asks for help, you can do that. My mother-in-law looked so proud when she said that, but I didn't feel like I had to listen to her anymore. It just felt impossible to do everything on my own. Don't say you can't. Just get to work, she said. No, I won't. I'm not going to be treated like this, I replied. Her eyes widened, and she gave me an angry look. Don't talk back to me, just do as I say. Her face turned red with anger. I calmly said, fine, I'll stop being a wife then. I'm Christina, a 28-year-old housewife. I've been married to Gabriel for 2 years. After we married, I became a full-time housewife. We were happy at first, spending our time together. But lately, things have been tense. My mother-in-law, who used to be kind to me, suddenly changed. She became rude and demanding. Before, when I visited her, she'd say, welcome, Christina. Rest here. But recently, she would say, you're late. Help me with the housework. She used to tell me to just wait for a baby, but now she asks, when will I get grandchildren? I was confused by her sudden change. Now she takes advantage of me and makes me do everything for her. Christina, come here right now, she would call out after Gabriel left for work. Perfect, you don't need to do anything until Gabriel leaves. Then it's your duty to help me, she said. Every morning she calls me like this. If I don't go, she keeps calling until I give in. Once I go to her house, she complains nonstop and makes me do all the work. I even had to go on weekends. She tricked Gabriel into thinking I was just visiting, but secretly pressured me into doing all the housework. Gabriel doesn't know how badly she treats me. His dad travels a lot, so my mother-in-law is usually alone at the house. My in-laws' family has my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and their 3 sons. Gabriel is the second son, and his brothers are married too. Gabriel's older brother and his wife used to live with them, but moved out when they had to move for work. My mother-in-law had always been kind to my younger brother-in-law's wife. Sometimes my brother-in-law and his wife would visit, and my mother-in-law would treat her the same way she used to treat me, nicely and warmly. I couldn't understand why she started being so mean to me. Had I done something to upset her? What was the difference between me and my brother-in-law's wife? I felt more and more frustrated and couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to talk to my husband. Hey, your mom has been really mean to me lately. But my husband didn't seem to care. What? You have a problem with her? He asked coldly. Come on, I don't want any trouble. Basically, these things happen because you expect too much from other people. My mom and you are strangers, so don't expect anything from her. His response felt wrong. It seemed like he just wanted to avoid the issue, and I felt disappointed. So like he said, I stopped expecting anything from him because, according to him, he was also a stranger. Then it was time for New Year's. As always, my in-laws had a big family gathering at their house. My mother-in-law kept trying to get me to come, but I kept saying I was busy with my own family during the holiday. Until then, I had always listened to my mother-in-law, but now I just didn't want to. She was getting more and more frustrated with me. On the day of the family gathering, my mother-in-law planned something terrible for me. This was the 3rd time I was attending the event at my in-laws' house. The first time was after I married Gabriel, and I helped my brother-in-law's wife. Last year, I cleaned the house and bought groceries. But this year, my mother-in-law wanted me to do everything for the family gathering. I need you to buy ingredients for dinner for 30 people, cook, and clean the house. You can rest, Sofia. If my husband asks you for help, you can do that. My mother-in-law looked so proud when she said that, but I didn't feel like I should obey her anymore. It's impossible. I can't do it all by myself. Don't tell me you can't. Just get on with it, she said. No, I won't do it. I'm not going to be treated like that. My mother-in-law's eyes widened with anger. Don't you dare talk back to me. Just do as I say. Her face turned red and she was furious. I calmly replied, okay, I'll quit being a wife then. What are you talking about? I'm going to divorce Gabriel and stop being his wife. You think you can just do something selfish like that? I won't let you. I don't need your permission. Divorce is between a husband and wife. Stop being so smart. You've really pissed me off. What a coincidence. I'm also annoyed by every word you say. What the hell? Then my younger brother-in-law's wife, who was standing next to me, surprised everyone by speaking up. If you quit, Christina, I'll quit being a wife too. Huh? Oh, you're quitting too? If this keeps going, I'll be the next one bullied, right? I need to get out of here before it's too late. That's my sister-in-law. She's so smart. Why do you both keep talking nonsense? I won't let you get away with this. My mother-in-law was yelling in anger. The rest of the family, including my father-in-law and my brothers-in-law, were busy preparing for the family event. They came over to see what was going on. What's all this fuss about? My mother-in-law has been picking on me, and I can't take it anymore. So today, I'm quitting as a wife. I'm going to leave before I'm the next one she bullies. What did you say? My father-in-law went straight to my mother-in-law. Hey, you broke your promise. No. What do you mean promise? You didn't believe your daughters-in-law again. What's going on? I'm sorry, Christina. The reason my oldest son and his wife left wasn't because they were transferred for work. It was because she was mentally tortured by the bullying here. That makes sense. That's why they didn't come over today or to any other family events. When my oldest son found out how his wife was treated, he got angry and left with her. I even scolded her. Then she apologized, saying she would never bully anyone again and begged me to keep quiet about it. Really? I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I didn't think she would do it again. It's not your fault, Father. Christina, you should go home today with Gabriel. I'll have her do all the preparations for the gathering by herself. Oh no, that's impossible. Okay, so you were trying to make Christina do something impossible. Well, if you treated your daughters-in-law better, none of this would have happened. This is all your fault. I'll leave it to you to decide what to do from now on, Christina. You can make the decision. Thank you very much. Then my husband, looking scared, began talking to me. Christina, you're not really going to divorce me, are you? I can't stay with you anymore. You never listened to me when I asked for help with your mother. Well, we can just cut ties with my mom, so can we stay married? I'm already disappointed in you. I don't think you'll ever think about what's best for me. You always make decisions based on your ego. I don't want to stay married to someone like that. I will not divorce. Oh no. After that, I went home alone, packed my things, and went to my parents' house. My younger brother-in-law, who was crazy about his wife, told her that he would rather leave his parents' house than lose her. So they left together. My mother-in-law had to prepare all the food for the gathering on her own, and she struggled while cooking for so many people. Later I heard that my father-in-law confronted my mother-in-law with divorce papers. He told her he would divorce her if she broke her promise. He was clever to make her do all the work while planning to divorce her. Now that my mother-in-law is out of the picture, my older brother-in-law and his wife can return home without worry. They have a baby now, and my father-in-law is thrilled to see his grandchild. As for me, I managed to get a divorce from my husband. He didn't want to sign the papers at first, but when I mentioned getting a lawyer, he signed immediately. My ex-husband was the only one of the 3 brothers who didn't care about his wife, which caused problems between him and his father. His brothers respect their wives, and the wives decided they didn't trust my ex-husband and didn't want to see him anymore. Now he's uncomfortable going back to his parents' house. He really deserves it. I got a new job and have been working hard. I'm enjoying my new job, and living alone feels comfortable and fulfilling. I even got a younger boyfriend, so I'm trying to enjoy my love life and work as much as I can. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you liked it. See you in the next video.
The scent hit me first. Unfamiliar perfume lingering in my living room like an uninvited guest. Sweet, cloying, definitely not mine. I stood frozen in the doorway, keys still dangling from my fingers as my eyes traced the evidence scattered across our cream-colored couch. A wine glass with a perfect crimson lip print. A silk scarf in deep purple, carelessly draped over the armrest. The half-empty bottle of Cabernet that Travis and I had been saving for our anniversary. I'm Skylar, and this is the moment my carefully constructed life began to crack. My hands didn't shake as I set down my purse and took out my phone. Click. 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 3 perfect photos of someone else's presence in my home. The timestamps would matter later. I knew that much. 4 years of marriage had taught me to document everything, even if I didn't yet understand why. Mommy. Mason's voice echoed from the hallway where Mrs. Peterson, our elderly neighbor, held his small hand. We made cookies. I forced my face into something resembling normalcy. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I scooped him up, breathing in the simple comfort of his baby shampoo and sugar-sweet breath. Thank you for watching him, Mrs. Peterson. I really appreciate you picking him up when the daycare called. Anytime, dear. Though Travis should have answered his phone. I tried him 3 times before calling you. Of course he didn't answer. He was too busy entertaining his guest. After Mrs. Peterson left, I settled Mason with his toys in his room and returned to the living room. My fingers traced the lip print on the glass, and I wondered if she'd worn the same shade when she kissed my husband. The thought made my stomach turn. My phone buzzed. Travis. Hey, babe. Running late at the office? Don't wait up. The lie settled in my chest like ice. I typed back, no problem. Hope the meeting goes well. I didn't mention finding his little souvenir collection. Didn't tell him I'd come home early because Mason had a fever. Didn't say I knew exactly what kind of meeting kept him busy. Instead, I walked to our bedroom and opened his closet. The evidence was there, too. A receipt from La Maison tucked into his jacket pocket, dated last Tuesday when he'd claimed to be at a client dinner. $200 for wine and dessert. Romantic. My phone buzzed again. Sarah this time. How's Mason feeling? Better. Listen, can you come over tomorrow? I need your help with something. Of course. Everything okay? I stared at the purple scarf, its silk catching the late afternoon light. No, but it will be. Mason's voice called from his room. Mommy, can we have mac and cheese? Coming, baby. I called back, then quickly typed to Sarah. I'll explain tomorrow. Bring your laptop and that real estate contact of yours. I tucked the scarf into my drawer and washed the wine glass, erasing the physical evidence but keeping the photos safe in my phone. Travis wanted to play games? Fine. But he'd forgotten something crucial about me. I learned strategy at my father's knee, watching him build his real estate empire from nothing. And I'd inherited more than just his eyes. That night, as I tucked Mason into bed, he asked, Is Daddy coming home to read my story? Not tonight, sweetie. I kissed his forehead, still slightly warm. But don't worry, Mommy's going to make sure everything's okay. I sat in the darkness of his room long after he fell asleep, planning my next moves like pieces on a chessboard. Travis thought he was being clever, but he'd made a fatal mistake. He'd underestimated me, and by the time I was done, he'd learn exactly what that meant. The game was just beginning, and I intended to win. The key clicked in the lock of my parents' Victorian home. My home now, though I still couldn't think of it that way. 2 years after their accident, their presence lingered in every corner. Dad's reading glasses on his desk, Mom's gardening magazine collection still arranged by season. I'd barely touched anything since the funeral. Sarah's heels clicked against the hardwood floors behind me. You're sure about this? Travis wants to sell it. My voice came out harder than I intended. He's been pushing harder lately. Says we could use the money for investments. Bastard. Sarah moved past me into the study, her laptop tucked under her arm. Your parents left this house to you specifically, not to both of you. He can't force a sale. I traced my fingers along the mahogany desk where Dad had taught me about property values and market trends. He's found a way. I saw the paperwork he tried to hide. He's already talking to developers. Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard. I've pulled up the deed records. There's something weird here, Sky. The ownership status changed last month. My stomach dropped. What? It shows a transfer of partial interest to... She squinted at the screen. Evelyn Blackwood? Through some kind of holding company. The name meant nothing to me, but the timing, right when Travis started staying late at the office, that meant everything. My phone buzzed. Travis. I ignored it. Look at this. Sarah turned her laptop around. Evelyn Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Development. They specialize in historic property renovation. Her air quotes dripped with skepticism. A woman's face stared back at me from the company website. Elegant, mid-40s with a shark smile. Something about her eyes reminded me of that purple scarf. She's connected to him somehow, I said. The affair, the sudden interest in selling, it's all linked. Sky. Sarah hesitated. There's more. Your brother Lucas called me yesterday. He's worried about some investments Travis convinced him to make. The betrayal twisted deeper. What investments? Some kind of property development fund. Lucas said Travis promised guaranteed returns, but he's having trouble getting straight answers about where the money went. My phone buzzed again. This time a text. Where are you? We need to talk about the house. I typed back, busy with Mason. Another lie in our growing collection. Sarah watched me, concern etched on her face. What are you thinking? I walked to the window, looking out at Mom's rose garden. The bushes were overgrown now, but still blooming, stubborn like she'd been. I'm thinking it's time to do what Dad taught me. Follow the money. And Mason? Is exactly why I can't let Travis destroy everything my parents built. I turned back to her. Can your real estate contact help us trace these property transfers? Already texting him. Sarah's phone chimed. He can meet tomorrow, but Sky, if Travis is involved in something shady, then I need proof. I pulled out my own phone and scrolled through recent photos. The wine glass, the scarf, the receipt. And I need to know who this Evelyn Blackwood really is. A car door slammed outside. Through the window, I watched Travis stride up the walkway, his face set in lines of frustration I'd grown too familiar with lately. Back door. I whispered to Sarah. Take the laptop. I'll handle him. She squeezed my arm as she slipped out. Be careful. I stood in the study, surrounded by my parents' memories, and waited for the front door to open. Travis thought he was playing a clever game, but he'd forgotten something crucial. This house wasn't just property to me. It was my heritage, my son's future, and the last piece of my parents I had left. The door opened. Travis's footsteps echoed through the hall. Skylar? His voice carried a note of warning. We need to talk about some papers I need you to sign. I touched Dad's old fountain pen, still sitting in its holder. Yes, I called back. I think we do. Game on. Travis stood in my parents' study, his suit jacket draped over Dad's chair like he owned it. The sight made my fingers curl into fists. You weren't supposed to find out like this, he said, sliding papers across the mahogany desk. But since you're here, we might as well discuss the offer. I didn't touch the documents. Which offer? The one to sell my family's home or the one you made to my brother? His pause was barely perceptible, but I caught it. Lucas told you? He's not the only one who's been asking questions. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the photo of the wine glass. Like, who's been helping you make these investment decisions? The color drained from his face when he saw the image. Sky. Is it Evelyn Blackwood? The name hit him like a physical blow. Or maybe I should ask her protege. Chloe, isn't it? A woman's laugh drifted through the open window. Rich, confident, closer than it should be. Travis's eyes darted toward the sound. You brought her here? My voice came out whisper quiet. Dangerous. The front door opened. High heels clicked on hardwood. Travis? The car's waiting. Oh. She was younger than I expected. Sleek blonde hair, expensive dress, wearing the same shade of lipstick that had stained my wine glass. Behind her stood an older woman, Evelyn Blackwood herself, looking exactly like her website photo. Mrs. Henderson. Evelyn's smile didn't reach her eyes. We were hoping to discuss this professionally, like how you professionally helped my husband steal my brother's savings. Travis stepped forward. Nobody stole anything. It's a legitimate investment opportunity. The returns are a lie. I pulled up the property records Sarah had found. Just like the paperwork you forged to transfer partial ownership of this house. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? You don't understand business, he snapped. This house is just sitting here, a waste of valuable property. Evelyn's company can what? Turn my parents' home into condos? Use it to scam more people like Lucas? Chloe laughed, the sound grating. God, you're so provincial. This is why he needed someone who understands ambition. My phone buzzed. Sarah's text. Police contact confirmed fraud reports against Blackwood Dev. Evidence incoming. Ambition? I smiled, feeling the weight of Dad's fountain pen in my hand. Let me show you what ambition looks like. I pressed play on the recording app that had been running since I entered the house. Travis's confession about Lucas's investment played clearly through the speaker. Evelyn's composed mask cracked. Turn that off. Why? Worried about what comes next? The part where you discuss the forged documents or the other investors you've defrauded? You're bluffing, Travis said, but his voice shook. Am I? Ask your father, Travis. He's been helping me gather evidence for weeks. Turns out he's not thrilled about his son becoming a con artist. Chloe grabbed her purse. We're leaving. Now. No. I blocked the doorway. You're staying right here until the detective Sarah called finishes reviewing those fraud reports. He seemed very interested in Blackwood Development's history. Evelyn's face hardened. You stupid girl. You have no idea what you're doing. Actually, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm protecting what's mine. I met Travis's eyes. All of it. The house, Mason's future, my brother's investment. Everything you tried to steal. Blue lights flashed outside the window. Travis lunged for the papers on the desk, but I was faster. Years of watching my father build his business legally, ethically, had taught me more than Travis ever understood. It's over, I said as footsteps approached the front door. And Travis? I want a divorce. The look of defeat on his face should have felt like victory. Instead, I felt only a cold certainty that I'd done what needed to be done. For Mason, for my parents' legacy, for myself. As the detective entered, I thought of Mason, safe at Sarah's house, unaware that his world was changing. I'd tell him tomorrow, help him understand as best I could. But for now, I watched Travis's carefully constructed scheme crumble and felt the weight of my parents' absence lift just a little. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about protection. And I'd protected what mattered most. Mason's dinosaur backpack looked too small against the pile of hastily packed suitcases. He clutched his favorite T-Rex, watching me with eyes too serious for a 4-year-old. Are we going on vacation, Mommy? The bruise on my wrist, hidden beneath my sleeve where Travis had grabbed me during our confrontation, throbbed with my pulse. Something like that, baby. We're going to stay with Aunt Sarah for a while. My phone lit up with another message from Travis's father, Henry. He's threatening legal action. Says he has proof you knew about the investments. Be careful. The doorbell rang. Sarah stood there, car keys in hand, face grim. Henry called. You need to see this. She handed me a manila envelope. Inside were photos, me at the family home, meeting with Sarah's real estate contact, screenshots of emails I'd never written authorizing property transfers, all expertly forged. Evelyn's good, Sarah said quietly. She's setting you up to take the fall if the investment scheme goes south. Mason tugged at my sleeve. Can I bring my blocks? Of course, sweetheart. I forced a smile. Go pick your favorites. As soon as he was out of earshot, I turned to Sarah. How bad? Lucas called. The FBI is investigating Blackwood development. If these forged documents surface... She didn't need to finish. My phone buzzed again. Travis, come home. We can fix this. Think about Mason. The threat beneath the concern was clear. I deleted the message. A car pulled into our driveway, Henry's Mercedes. Travis's father stepped out, looking older than his 60 years. Skylar. He held up a USB drive. You need to see what I found in Travis's home office. We gathered around Sarah's laptop. Spreadsheets, emails, bank transfers, a web of fraud with my forged signature woven throughout. But there was something else. Wait, I said. Go back to that email. It was from my parents' old email account, dated 2 months after their accident, an account that should have been closed. Someone's been using their identity, Henry said, to authorize transfers, validate documents. Travis and Evelyn didn't just forge your signature, they've been ghosting your parents. The violation hit deeper than the affair, then the theft. They'd stolen not just money and property, but my parents' memory itself. Mason's small voice came from the doorway. Daddy's here. Travis stood on our front lawn, Chloe waiting in her car at the curb. He looked up at the window, eyes meeting mine. Take Mason upstairs, I told Sarah. To Henry, I added, how much time do I have before those documents surface? 24 hours, maybe less. Evelyn's getting nervous. She'll move soon. I thought of my father's lessons about business, about protecting what matters, about how sometimes the best defense is making your opponent reveal their own weakness. Send everything to your FBI contact, I said. But first, I need you to make some calls. If they want to use my parents against me, let's show them exactly what the Henderson name still means in this town. Henry nodded, understanding darkening his features. Travis doesn't know I'm helping you. Keep it that way. I watched Travis pace the lawn, phone pressed to his ear. He made this about family. Now he'll learn what that really means. Sarah returned without Mason. He's playing in my old room. Sky, whatever you're planning. I'm not planning anything. I touched the bruise on my wrist. I'm finishing what they started, but this time we're playing by my rules. Travis's voice carried through the window. Just give me an hour. I can convince her. I picked up my phone and dialed Lucas's number. My brother answered on the first ring. You ready? I asked. Everything's in place, just like Dad taught us. I watched Travis below, still believing he held all the cards, still thinking he knew what I was capable of. His next move would be desperate, probably violent. But I'd learned from the best. My parents hadn't just left me a house. They'd left me their strength. And I intended to use it. Sarah's guest room felt like a war room. Laptops, documents, and coffee cups covered every surface. Mason slept down the hall, his dinosaur nightlight casting shadows while we planned our next move. The board meeting's tomorrow, Henry said, spreading out the shareholder documents. Evelyn's planning to present evidence that you've been embezzling funds through your parents' estate. I studied the forged paperwork. My mother's signature looked perfect. Too perfect. They've been planning this for months. Lucas's voice crackled through the speakerphone. The FBI agent says they need more time to build their case. If Evelyn presents those documents first, I'll be arrested, I finished. And Travis gets everything. The house, custody of Mason, control of the estate. Sarah's phone buzzed. Her face went pale. Sky. Evelyn just posted bail for Travis. My hand instinctively went to my bruised wrist. The restraining order hadn't even been processed yet. He's not alone, Sarah continued. Chloe's with him, and they're heading to your parents' house. The security camera feed from the Victorian showed them forcing open the back door. Travis knew about the spare key behind the loose brick. Of course he did. I'd trusted him with everything once. They're looking for something specific, Henry observed, watching Travis tear through Dad's study. Something they need before tomorrow's meeting. The realization hit like ice water. Dad's ledger, the real one. Lucas's sharp intake of breath crackled through the phone. The one with all his notes about the property deals? I thought that was lost in the accident. No. I grabbed my keys. Mom showed me where they hid it right before she said I'd know when to use it. Skylar, wait. Henry caught my arm. If you go there now, they'll destroy everything my parents built. I pulled away. I won't let that happen. Sarah blocked the door. At least let me call the police. By the time they arrive, Travis will have what he wants. I met her eyes. You know what he's capable of now. The security feed showed Travis and Chloe methodically destroying the study. Books thrown, drawers emptied, pictures smashed. Each crash felt like a physical blow. Stay with Mason, I told Sarah. If I'm not back in an hour, don't. She hugged me fiercely. Just don't. The drive to my parents' house was a blur. Streetlights streaked past like accusations. What kind of mother leaves her child to confront her abuser? What kind of daughter lets thieves destroy her parents' legacy? My father's voice echoed in my memory. Sometimes protecting what matters means risking everything. Travis's car sat in the driveway, Chloe behind the wheel, engine running. Our eyes met through the windshield. She smiled, reaching for her phone. I slipped in through the garden entrance, my childhood route for sneaking out. The house creaked with familiar sounds, but now they felt like warnings. Travis's voice drifted down from upstairs. It has to be here somewhere. Evelyn says we need proof of the original deals. Maybe in the master bedroom? Chloe called back. Rich people love hidden safes. They didn't know. Mom and Dad never trusted safes. Too obvious, Dad always said. The best hiding place is one nobody thinks to question. I moved silently through the kitchen, past the shattered family photos, toward the one place they'd never look. Mom's garden shrine. A simple wooden cabinet filled with seed packets and tools. The false bottom had fooled even me, until she showed me the trick. The ledger waited there, wrapped in plastic, exactly as she'd left it. Inside were records of every legitimate deal, every proper transaction, and notes about which developers had tried to force sales through fraud, including Evelyn Blackwood, from 15 years ago. Footsteps creaked overhead. I clutched the ledger, heart pounding. I could slip out now, unnoticed. Safe. But Mom's favorite photo lay shattered on the floor. The three of us in her garden, laughing. They'd destroyed enough. I pulled out my phone and dialed Lucas. Tell Henry to call the board. Emergency meeting. Tonight. Sky, it's time they learned what happens when you threaten a Henderson. The stairs creaked. Travis was coming down. Game on. The boardroom lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps. 15 faces stared back at me. Old men in expensive suits who'd known my father, who'd attended his funeral, who now sat in judgment as Evelyn Blackwood presented her case. As you can see, Evelyn gestured to the projection screen, the transfer documents clearly show Mrs. Henderson's involvement in the fraudulent activities. My father's ledger felt heavy in my bag. One move could end this, but timing was everything. Travis sat beside Evelyn, not meeting my eyes. The bruise on my wrist had darkened to purple, visible now beneath my sleeve. I caught Henry's slight nod from across the room. Everything was ready. Furthermore, Evelyn continued, we have evidence of offshore accounts. The boardroom door burst open. FBI agents flooded in, badges raised. Evelyn Blackwood, the lead agent announced, we have a warrant for your arrest. The chaos that erupted was almost beautiful. Almost. Then Chloe screamed from the hallway, he has your son. The world stopped. My phone lit up with Sarah's text. Travis broke in, took Mason. I'm so sorry, police following. The ledger, the evidence, the arrests, none of it mattered anymore. I ran. Travis's car screeched out of the parking garage, Mason's terrified face pressed against the back window. My son's mouth formed one word. Mommy. I jumped into Henry's Mercedes, keys already in hand. He'd planned for this, knowing his son better than I had. The engine roared to life. Skylar, wait! Lucas's voice crackled through my phone. Police are in pursuit. Don't. I ended the call. Traffic blurred past as I followed Travis's taillights. He was heading toward the harbor, toward Evelyn's private yacht. Their escape plan, now desperate and accelerated. Rain started falling, making the roads slick. Travis took a corner too fast, fishtailing. Mason's scream carried through the closed windows. "Pull over!" I shouted uselessly. "Think about your son." Travis's response was to accelerate. In the passenger seat, I caught glimpses of Chloe's panicked face. She hadn't signed up for this level of crazy. The harbor appeared through the rain. Travis's car skidded to a stop near the private docks. He yanked Mason from the back seat, carrying him toward the yacht where lights already blazed. I abandoned Henry's car, running across wet concrete. "Travis, please." He spun, Mason struggling in his arms. "Stay back. This is your fault, all of it. If you just signed the papers, Daddy, you're hurting me." Mason's voice cracked with fear. Something shifted in Travis's eyes, something dark and desperate. "I can't go to prison. I won't." "Then let Mason go." I took a step closer. "Let him come to me and you can take the boat. I won't stop you." Chloe grabbed Travis's arm. "She's right. This is insane. He's just a child." Travis shoved her away. She slipped on the wet dock, falling hard. In that moment of distraction, Mason bit his father's hand and broke free. Everything slowed down. Mason running toward me, Travis lunging after him. The dock's edge slick with rain. My son's feet sliding. I dove forward as Mason fell. My fingers caught his jacket, but momentum carried us both over the edge. Cold water shocked my system. Mason's weight dragged us down. In the murky darkness, I heard my mother's voice. "Protect what matters most." I kicked hard, pushing Mason toward the surface, using the last of my strength. Hands reached down. Lucas's hands. I realized dimly. He must have followed me. Mason broke the surface, safe in his uncle's grip. But as I tried to follow, something caught my leg. Tangled dock line, pulling me deeper. The last thing I saw before darkness took me was Travis's face peering down from the dock, finally showing something like remorse. Then nothing. The hospital lights were too bright when I opened my eyes. Lucas sat beside me, his face drawn with exhaustion. "Mason?" My voice cracked. "Safe. With Sarah." He leaned forward. "Travis is in custody. They caught him trying to board the yacht." Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by rage. "And Evelyn?" "That's why I need you to focus." Lucas showed me his phone. The FBI found something in her files about Mom and Dad's accident. The world tilted sideways. 2 years of grief suddenly felt like an open wound. It wasn't an accident. The words tasted like poison. Was it? Brake lines. Evelyn's company wanted their property holdings. When they wouldn't sell, he didn't need to finish. A nurse entered, checking my vitals. "You have another visitor. Police detective." The detective was older, weathered, with kind eyes that had seen too much. "Mrs. Henderson, we need your statement about the dock incident. But first, there's something you should know. Your husband's talking." Travis's confession played on a tablet. His voice shook as he detailed everything. The fraud, the affair, how Evelyn had orchestrated it all. How she'd promised him wealth beyond imagination if he helped pressure me into selling. She said it would be easy. Travis's recorded voice cracked. "Like the Henderson accident. Just make it look natural." The detective paused the video. "We're offering him a deal in exchange for testimony against Blackwood Development, but we need your cooperation." I thought of Mason's terror on that dock, of my parents trapped in their car, of everything that had been stolen from us. "When?" "The DA's waiting. Now." Lucas helped me into a wheelchair. My body ached from the near drowning, but something burned hotter than pain. Purpose. The conference room was small. Travis sat handcuffed to the table, Evelyn beside him with her lawyer. She still wore her boardroom smile, but it cracked when she saw me. "Skylar," Travis started. "I never meant—" "Save it." I pulled out my father's ledger. You wanted this so badly? Read it. The lawyer reached for it, but I opened it myself. Page 47, Dad. The day Evelyn first tried to force a sale. He documented everything. Evelyn's smile vanished completely. That proves nothing. Maybe not alone, but combined with the brake line evidence, the fraud paper trail, the attempted kidnapping. I leaned forward. You really should have researched the Henderson family better. Dad taught us to keep records of everything. You can't prove I had anything to do with your parents. Her voice held a tremor now. No? I turned to Travis. Tell her what you told the FBI about her instructions, about making things look natural. Travis wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. I'm sorry, Evelyn. I had to protect myself. You weak little. She lunged across the table. The detective moved fast, restraining her. As they led her away, she screamed threats, promises of revenge, but all I could see was the fear in her eyes. The same fear my parents must have felt. The DA has everything he needs, the detective said. It's over. But it wasn't. Not quite. I wheeled closer to Travis. Mason asked about you yesterday. Wanted to know if bad daddies can become good daddies again. His shoulders shook. What did you tell him? The truth. That people make choices. And those choices have consequences. I placed the ledger on the table. You have a choice now. Help make this right, or let Evelyn drag you down with her. Why are you giving me this chance? Not for you. I thought of Mason's smile, so like my father's. For our son. Because he deserves to know that even when people fail us, justice doesn't have to mean destruction. I left Travis there, staring at the ledger that contained both his downfall and his potential redemption. Lucas wheeled me out into the sunshine, where Sarah waited with Mason. My son ran to me, careful of my injuries. Mommy, are the bad people gone? I held him close, breathing in his innocent trust. Yes, baby. And they can't hurt us anymore. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about protecting what matters most, even if that means showing mercy when you least want to. Dad would have understood that. The Victorian's front porch creaked under my feet as I fitted the key into the lock. Mason darted past me, his dinosaur backpack bouncing against his shoulders. Can I have my old room back? Of course, baby. I watched him race upstairs, his footsteps echoing through halls that finally felt alive again. Sarah helped me carry in the last box, marked simply, Mom's Things. We'd found it hidden in the attic during the final walkthrough of my old house with Travis. Henry called, she said, setting the box down. Travis's sentencing is tomorrow. I nodded, running my fingers along the box's dusty edges. Lucas is handling it. I need to be here. You sure? Through the window, I watched Mason in the backyard, carefully watering Mom's roses just like she'd taught him. Some had survived the neglect, stubbornly blooming despite everything. This is where we need to be. Sarah squeezed my hand and left me alone with the box. Inside, beneath old photos and keepsakes, I found an envelope with my name in Mom's handwriting. The paper was aged, like she'd written it years ago. My dearest Skylar, if you're reading this, you've already faced what I always feared. Someone trying to take what we built. Your father and I knew Evelyn wouldn't stop. We've left you everything you need to protect our legacy, but the real strength was always in you. Remember? Revenge is easy, but justice takes courage. Choose wisely. Love, Mom. My phone buzzed. A text from Travis. The DA offered 5 years. I'm taking it. Tell Mason I'm sorry. I deleted the message without responding. Some apologies couldn't be sent by text. The doorbell rang. Henry stood there, looking older but somehow lighter. The board approved your proposal. The Henderson Foundation for Ethics and Business Development is officially funded. Dad would have loved the irony. I invited him in, using Evelyn's seized assets to fund oversight and whistleblower protection. Travis asked me to give you this. He handed me an envelope. Said it was important. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Travis's signed confession about my parents' accident, more detailed than what he'd given the police. evidence that would ensure Evelyn never saw freedom again. "Grandpa Henry," Mason's voice carried from the garden. "Look at my flowers." Henry's eyes misted. "May I?" I nodded, watching him join Mason by the roses. They looked right together, proof that some bonds transcended the sins of others. In my father's study, everything was finally back in place. His glasses on the desk, Mom's magazines arranged by season, the ledger returned to its rightful spot. But something felt different. Lighter, clearer, like morning after a storm. I opened the wall safe behind his desk calendar, where he'd always kept important documents. Inside was one final surprise: adoption papers dated just weeks before their death. They'd been planning to adopt Lucas permanently, making official what love had already decided. My brother's footsteps in the doorway told me he'd known. "Found them last week," he said quietly. "Dad told me the night before the accident. They were going to tell you at Sunday dinner." I hugged him, feeling the weight of everything we'd lost and found in these past weeks. "Sky?" Mason called from the garden. "Can we plant new flowers?" Through the window, I watched my son kneeling in the dirt, Henry showing him how to prepare the soil, just like Mom had shown me. Behind them, the roses bloomed fierce and bright, survivors all. "Coming, baby. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what hurt you. Sometimes it's about building something stronger in its place." Mom knew that. Now I did too. I joined my family in the garden, where new things were ready to grow.
The call came during my lunch break, Ryan's voice cracking with an urgency I'd never heard before. "Get out of the house now, Tessa. Don't pack, don't ask questions. Just go to your parents' place and wait for me there." I gripped my phone tighter, my sandwich forgotten on my desk. "Ryan, what's going on? Please just trust me on this. I'll explain everything later." The line went dead. My hands trembled as I gathered my purse. The marketing proposal I'd spent weeks perfecting lay abandoned on my computer screen. 3 months of marriage, and already my world was tilting on its axis. Taking off early? Sarah from accounting peered over her cubicle wall. Family emergency. The words tasted bitter. I'd used the same excuse last week when Margaret, my mother-in-law, had orchestrated another of her impromptu family dinners, the ones where she'd parade Clara around like some sort of trophy daughter-in-law that never was. The drive home was a blur of red lights and horn blasts. My mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. Had something happened to Frank? Was Margaret finally making her move to destroy our marriage? Or was it Clara, with her perfectly timed appearances and lingering touches on Ryan's arm? I pulled into our driveway, half expecting to find the house in flames. Instead, everything looked exactly as I'd left it this morning. The newspaper still on the porch, my gardening gloves draped over the railing. The normalcy felt wrong, somehow more threatening than any visible danger. My phone buzzed. A text from Clara. "Heard about Ryan's call. Just checking if you're okay. We're all worried." We. That single word sent ice through my veins. How did she know about the call? And who exactly was we? I deleted the message without responding and dialed Ryan again. Straight to voicemail. Inside the house, everything seemed undisturbed, but the air felt heavy with secrets. I grabbed my laptop and a few essential documents from our home office. Whatever was happening, I wasn't walking into it blind. Another text buzzed through, Margaret this time. "Dear, perhaps we should talk before you do anything rash. Family matters are best handled within the family." I laughed, a harsh sound in the empty house. Family. Right. Because she treated me like family from day one, hadn't she? With her subtle digs about my career, her constant reminiscing about Ryan and Clara's childhood together, her pointed comments about traditional values. The front door creaked. I froze, clutching my laptop to my chest. "Tessa." Clara's voice floated through the hallway. "Your car's outside. I know you're home." I slipped into the kitchen, my heart hammering. Through the window, I could see Paul's car idling in the street, Clara's brother waiting behind the wheel. "We're just trying to help," Clara called out, her footsteps moving closer. "Margaret's worried sick about Ryan. He's not been himself lately, has he? Ever since the wedding." I eased open the back door, thankful I'd had it oiled last week. Clara's voice continued, honey sweet and reasonable, as I crept along the side of the house. My phone vibrated again, Ryan. Don't let them find you. Almost there. 10 minutes. I ran. Past the garden where Margaret had criticized my choice of flowers. Past the fence Ryan and I had painted together on our first weekend as homeowners. Past all the dreams I'd had of belonging to this family. As I pulled out of the neighborhood, I caught a glimpse of Clara in my rearview mirror, standing in our driveway with her phone pressed to her ear. She wasn't smiling anymore. I drove to my parents' house with my hands clenched on the steering wheel, my wedding ring catching the afternoon sun. Whatever game they were playing, whatever trap they'd set, they'd chosen the wrong woman to underestimate. I sat at my parents' kitchen table, staring at the family photos lining their walls. Happy faces, genuine smiles. Nothing like the brittle pleasantries at the Morgan family dinners. The memory of last week's disaster surfaced, sharp as broken glass. More wine, Tessa dear? Margaret had held the bottle over my glass, not waiting for an answer. Clara. You remember how Ryan used to hate red wine, until you introduced him to that lovely Bordeaux on your trip to France? Clara's laugh had tinkled like wind chimes. Oh, that was ages ago. Before university, wasn't it, Ryan? I'd watched my husband's face tighten. I don't remember that trip. Of course you do, Margaret had insisted. It was right after that summer you two dated. The silence that followed had been deafening. Ryan had never mentioned dating Clara. Not once in our 2 years together. Now, sitting in my childhood home, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old social media posts. There they were, Ryan and Clara, tagged in countless photos over the years. Family vacations, holiday celebrations, casual dinners. In every image, Clara stood just a little too close, her hand always finding its way to Ryan's arm or shoulder. The doorbell rang, startling me from my investigation. Through the peephole, I saw Frank Morgan shifting nervously on the porch. Tessa. His voice was barely above a whisper. Can we talk? I opened the door but blocked the entrance. Does Margaret know you're here? He shook his head, looking older than his 62 years. She thinks I'm at the hardware store. May I come in? In the kitchen, Frank's hands trembled as he accepted a cup of coffee. I should have said something sooner. About Clara, about all of it. Why now? Because I heard them planning. He stared into his cup. Margaret and Clara, they were in the garden yesterday, talking about your honeymoon next month. My stomach clenched. What about it? Clara's brother Paul. He's been following you, taking pictures. They're going to send them to Ryan, edited to make it look like. He trailed off, unable to finish. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. That's why Ryan called me today? Because of their photos. Frank nodded. He found them on his computer this morning. Clara must have uploaded them when she was over for dinner. She's not well, Tessa. Her obsession with Ryan, it's gotten worse since the wedding. And Margaret encourages it. Margaret sees what she wants to see. She's always viewed Clara as the daughter she never had. He met my eyes. The daughter she could control. My phone buzzed, another text from Clara. Just talk to Ryan. He's worried about your mental state. We all are. Let's meet and sort this out. I showed Frank the message. His face crumpled. They'll try to isolate you, make you look unstable. It's what they did to Ryan's last girlfriend before you. Margaret convinced everyone the poor girl was mentally ill, spreading rumors about the family. What happened to her? She moved away. Changed her name, I think. Frank stood, his coffee untouched. I should go. But Tessa, be careful. Margaret's been playing these games for 40 years. She's very good at them. After he left, I sat alone in the growing darkness, pieces clicking into place. The constant surveillance, the orchestrated run-ins with Clara, the subtle undermining of my confidence. They'd been laying groundwork for months. My phone lit up with Ryan's message. On my way. Don't trust anything they say. I have proof. I walked to my old bedroom, where a photo album from my wedding day sat on the bookshelf. Flipping through it, I found what I was looking for. A candid shot of Clara watching Ryan during our first dance. Her expression wasn't one of friendly affection or even jealousy. It was hunger. The front door opened downstairs. Footsteps on the stairs, too heavy to be my parents. Tessa. Ryan's voice. Are you up here? I closed the album, my decision made. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they'd forgotten something crucial. In marketing, my entire career was built on understanding human nature and manipulating perceptions. Time to show them how it's really done. Ryan spread the doctored photos across my parents' dining room table. Each one told a carefully crafted lie. Me embracing Paul in shadowy doorways, slipping into hotel lobbies, sharing intimate conversations in cafes. The timestamps matched days I'd been working late at the office. Clara's brother has been following you for weeks, Ryan said, his voice tight. They planted these on my work computer this morning, along with emails they'd fabricated between you and Paul. I picked up one photo, studying how they'd manipulated the lighting to make an innocent business lunch look like a clandestine meeting. Your mother's fingerprints are all over this. She slipped up. Ryan pulled out his phone, playing a voice recording. Margaret's voice filled the room. Once Ryan sees these, he'll have to admit Tessa isn't who he thinks she is. Clara will be there to help him through it, just like before. My fingers clenched around the photo. Before. Ryan's face darkened. Remember what Dad said about my last girlfriend? There's more. Clara created a similar setup with doctored photos back then. But this time, he hesitated. This time she made a mistake. Left metadata on the original photos showing when they were actually taken. A text lit up my phone, Clara again. Ryan's not thinking clearly. Let me help fix this. I care about both of you. She's getting desperate, I said, showing Ryan the message. There's something else. He pulled out a USB drive. Dad found this in Mom's study. It's everything, years of manipulation. Photos she edited, emails she faked, even a journal where she planned how to break up my relationships. She's been grooming Clara as my backup plan since high school. The front door opened downstairs. My parents' voices drifted up, followed by another, Frank's. They're here, Frank called up. Margaret and Clara. They followed me. Ryan moved to the window. Paul's car is blocking the driveway. I gathered the photos, my marketing brain already spinning possibilities. Let them come up. I want to hear how they explain these timestamps. Tessa. Ryan touched my arm. They're dangerous when cornered. So am I. Footsteps on the stairs. Clara appeared first, all concerned smiles and gentle hands. Oh, thank goodness you're both here. We've been so worried. Margaret followed, her face a mask of maternal concern. Ryan, darling, step away from her. You don't know what she's capable of. I held up one of the doctored photos. Interesting choice of editing software, Clara. Adobe's timestamp feature is quite revealing. Color drained from Clara's face. Margaret stepped forward, reaching for the photo. You're confused, dear. Those pictures. Show Paul following me for weeks? I pulled out my phone, clicking play on a recording app. Or show how you and Clara plan to plant them on Ryan's computer. Because I have to say, discussing criminal conspiracy in your garden wasn't very smart. You recorded us? Clara's voice shook. No. Frank stepped into the doorway. I did. Margaret whirled on her husband. You wouldn't dare. I already have. Frank's voice was steady. I sent copies to everyone, family, friends, Clara's fiancé. Even that private investigator you hired last year to follow Tessa. Turns out he has quite a conscience when he learns he's been manipulated into participating in stalking. Clara lunged for the photos, but Ryan blocked her path. It's over, Clara. All of it. You don't understand, Clara whispered. We were meant to be together. Your mother promised. My mother promised a lot of things, Ryan cut in. To a lot of people. But she doesn't control me anymore. And neither do you. I watched Clara's facade crack, years of obsession and manipulation showing through. She turned to Margaret, desperate. Tell him about the plan, about how we were going to fix everything. But Margaret was staring at Frank, 30 years of control slipping through her fingers. You weak, pathetic man. After everything I've done for this family. That's exactly why I did it, Frank said quietly. For our family. Our real family. I stepped forward, my voice steady. You have two choices. Leave now and never contact us again, or we take everything, the photos, the recordings, the evidence of stalking, to the police. Clara's face contorted. You wouldn't. I met her gaze, letting her see the truth. Try me. The silence stretched, heavy with decades of manipulation and lies. Then Margaret turned, her shoulders stiff with fury, and walked out. Clara remained, staring at Ryan with naked longing. "Clara," I said softly, "don't make me prove how far I'll go to protect what's mine." She fled, her sobs echoing down the stairs. But I felt no victory, only a cold certainty that this was just the beginning. The email arrived at midnight. A single photo attachment from an anonymous account. My hand shook as I opened it. Margaret and Clara outside a psychiatric facility, dated 3 years ago. The caption read, "Ask Ryan about Jessica." I stared at my sleeping husband on my parents' guest bed. His face troubled even in rest. Jessica. The name scratched at something in my memory. A whispered conversation at our wedding reception, quickly silenced when I'd approached. My phone buzzed. "Frank. Need to meet. Alone. The diner on 5th. Now." Ryan stirred. "Everything okay?" "Just work." I lied, the words bitter on my tongue. "Go back to sleep." The diner was empty except for Frank, hunched over a coffee cup. When I slid into the booth, he pushed a manila envelope across the table. "Jessica Martinez," he said. Ryan's fiancée before Clara orchestrated her breakdown. Inside the envelope, newspaper clippings told the story. Jessica Martinez, promising young attorney, committed after a public breakdown. Released 6 months later, she disappeared completely. Clara didn't just want to break them up, Frank continued. She wanted to destroy Jessica. And Margaret helped. How? The same way they're trying with you. Small things at first, moving items in Jessica's house, sending emails from fake accounts, arranging coincidental meetings that made her look unstable. He paused. Ryan never knew the full truth. He thought Jessica's breakdown was real. My coffee grew cold as Frank detailed their methodology. The gaslighting, the carefully planted evidence, the slow isolation from friends and family. Why tell me this now? Because they're escalating faster with you. They learned from their mistakes with Jessica. Frank's hands trembled. Margaret's already contacted your firm's HR department. Anonymous concerns about your mental health. The diner's fluorescent lights suddenly felt too bright. Ryan would never believe. Ryan believed it about Jessica. Frank's eyes were haunted. He trusted his mother's concern then. And Clara. She's perfected her role as the supportive friend. My phone lit up with a text from Clara. Ryan's worried about you sneaking out at night. Let me help before things get worse. They're watching the house, I realized. Frank nodded. Paul's car. 2 blocks down. I scrolled through my photos, finding the one from my wedding. Clara watching Ryan during our first dance. The hunger in her eyes matched the woman who'd stood outside that psychiatric facility. There's something else, Frank said. Jessica didn't just disappear. The diner's door chimed. Clara walked in, her concerned smile perfectly practiced. Oh, thank goodness, she gushed. Ryan's been frantic. He woke up and you were gone. She reached for my arm. I jerked away. Don't touch me. Sweetie, you're not well. We can all see it. Her voice dripped sympathy. The paranoia, the late-night wanderings, the accusations. Just like poor Jessica. Clara. Frank's voice held a warning. She ignored him. Ryan's waiting outside. Let's get you home, get you help. Before you hurt yourself. Through the diner's windows, I saw Ryan's car pulling up. Margaret in the passenger seat. The trap was closing. I stood, my chair scraping loudly. You know what happened to Jessica, don't you? Clara's mask slipped for just a moment. Jessica was sick. She needed help. No. The revelation hit like lightning. She figured it out. That's why she disappeared. She wasn't running from a breakdown. She was running from you. Tessa. Ryan's voice from the doorway. Mom told me about the HR complaints. About your behavior. I met his eyes, seeing the doubt there. The same doubt that had probably clouded his judgment with Jessica. But I wasn't Jessica. Tell him, Clara, I said softly. Tell him about the facility. About the photos. Clara's composure cracked. Ryan, she's confused. The timestamps don't lie. I pulled out my phone, showing the anonymous email. Neither do psychiatric facility visitor logs. Should we call them? See who visited Jessica before her breakdown? The diner fell silent. In that moment, I saw my choices clearly. Run like Jessica or stand and fight. And I'd never been good at running. Ryan, I said, not breaking eye contact with Clara, I think it's time you heard the whole story about your ex-fiancé. The package arrived 3 days after the diner confrontation. No return address, just my name in careful handwriting. Inside, a USB drive and a note. You're not the first. You won't be the last. J. My hands trembled as I plugged it into my laptop. Video files, dozens of them, showing Clara and Margaret's methodical destruction of Jessica Martinez. Security footage, phone recordings, emails, a digital breadcrumb trail of calculated madness. I found Jessica. Ryan's voice made me jump. He stood in the doorway of our temporary bedroom at my parents' house, his face ashen. She's in Seattle, working under her mother's maiden name. Did you talk to her? She agreed to video call. Tonight. He sat heavily on the bed. She said Clara visited her in the facility, told her if she ever came back, there'd be worse consequences than a psychiatric hold. My phone buzzed. Clara's fiancé, James. Can we meet? Something's not right with Clara. I showed Ryan the message. It's probably a trap. Or an opportunity. Ryan's jaw tightened. James needs to know what he's getting into. The cafe was crowded enough to feel safe. James sat alone, turning his coffee cup nervously. When he saw us, his face crumpled. Clara's pregnant, he blurted out. At least, that's what she told Margaret. But when I called her doctor, let me guess, I said. No record of pregnancy. He nodded. And I found these. He slid his phone across the table. Photos of Clara outside our house watching through windows. Dozens of them spanning months. She doesn't know I saw them. My phone lit up, Frank. Margaret's gone. Cleared out her accounts this morning. They're making their move, Ryan muttered. James leaned forward. There's more. Clara's been meeting someone at the psychiatric facility where Jessica stayed. A doctor. They're building a case. The cafe door chimed. Clara walked in, her face a perfect mask of concern. Behind her, Paul blocked the exit. James, darling. Her voice dripped honey. I've been so worried. When Mother Morgan said you were meeting them. She placed a protective hand over her non-existent pregnancy. Stop lying, Clara. James stood. I know about the photos. About Jessica. Clara's mask slipped, just for a moment. They've poisoned you against me. Just like they're trying to poison everyone. She turned to the other customers. My fiancé's sister is mentally ill. We're just trying to get her help. People started staring. Phones came out. Recording this? I stood slowly. Good. Because Clara Bennett and Margaret Morgan are about to be famous for all the wrong reasons. You don't want to do this, Paul warned, moving closer. Actually, I do. I opened my laptop, turning it to face the growing crowd. Jessica Martinez sent me something interesting. Want to see how they drove her to a breakdown? Or should we start with the fake pregnancy records Clara's been creating? Clara lunged for the laptop. You stupid bitch. There it is. Ryan's voice cut through the chaos. He held up his phone, recording. The real Clara Bennett. She froze, realizing her mistake. The cafe had gone silent. Dozens of phones capturing her transformation from concerned friend to snarling aggressor. Where's my mother? Ryan asked quietly. Clara's laugh was brittle. Somewhere you'll never find her. She's making sure everything's ready. For when Tessa has her inevitable breakdown. You mean like this? I pressed play on Jessica's video. Clara's voice filled the cafe. Just sign the commitment papers, Jessica. Admit you're unstable, and this all goes away. James backed away from Clara, horror dawning on his face. What have you done? What I had to do. Clara's composure cracked completely. He was supposed to be mine. Margaret promised. After Jessica, after every other girl she helped me eliminate. She turned to Ryan, desperate. We were meant to be together. Your mother understood that. No, Ryan said softly. My mother used you. Just like she used everyone else. My phone buzzed one final time, an email from Jessica. Sending this to every news outlet now. Good luck. Clara saw the headline appear on my screen. Systematic gaslighting ring exposed. Prominent family's mental health manipulation scheme. In that moment, watching Clara's world implode, I felt no satisfaction. Only a bone-deep weariness and a single burning question. Where was Margaret and what final trap had she set? The answer came sooner than expected, as police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The police didn't come for Clara. They came for me. Tessa Morgan, the officer read from his tablet. You're wanted for questioning regarding allegations of stalking, harassment, and cyber threats against Clara Bennett and Margaret Morgan. The cafe had gone silent. Phones still recorded, but now they were pointed at me. Clara's mask of victimhood slipped perfectly back into place, tears streaming down her face. See, she whispered. This is exactly what we were afraid of. Ryan stepped forward. This is ridiculous. We have proof. Of elaborate forgeries, Paul interrupted, holding up a folder. Created by your wife to harass my sister. The metadata proves it. My laptop. The USB drive. Everything Jessica sent. They'd somehow corrupted it all, twisted it back against me. I watched the officer scroll through what looked like my emails, my photos, all doctored to show an obsession with destroying Clara's life. Check the timestamps. I started, but Clara cut in. Just like with Jessica, she sobbed. She's trying to recreate what happened, but making me the villain this time. The doctors warned us this might happen. My phone buzzed one last time before the officer confiscated it. Frank? Margaret's at your office. She's speaking to HR now. The pieces clicked together. While we'd been focused on Clara's breakdown, Margaret had been methodically destroying my credibility, my career, my life. Ryan. I turned to my husband, seeing doubt flicker across his face. Don't let them do this. He reached for me, but the officer stepped between us. Sir, given the nature of the allegations, you should maintain distance until. He's my husband. And my son. Margaret's voice cut through the chaos. She stood in the cafe doorway, elegant and composed. Who we're trying to protect from your escalating behavior. The room spun. Everything we'd gathered, every piece of evidence, they'd planned for it all, turned it against us, made me look exactly like Jessica. Obsessed, unstable, dangerous. The psychiatric hold is temporary, the officer said quietly. Just until. No. Ryan's voice cracked. Mom, stop this. Margaret touched his arm. Sweetheart, we tried to handle this privately. But after what happened at the office today. What happened at the office? My voice sounded distant, strange. Security footage of you threatening Clara this morning, Paul supplied smoothly. Very convincing performance. But I hadn't been near the office. I'd been. The realization hit like ice water. They'd planned this months ago. Built their case while we thought we were building ours. Show them, I whispered to Ryan. Jessica's video call tonight. Already handled, Margaret said softly. The real Jessica Martinez called earlier, very disturbed by your attempts to impersonate her. She's willing to testify about your obsession with her story. Clara stepped closer, her voice gentle. Let them help you, Tessa. Like they helped me understand my feelings about Ryan weren't healthy. The ultimate twist, making Clara the reformed obsessive and me the new threat. I looked at James, still clutching his phone. The photos weren't taken by Clara, Paul finished. The metadata shows they came from your phone. Stalking her, building your case. Very thorough. The officer took my arm. Through the cafe window, I saw the news vans arriving. Margaret had orchestrated every detail, down to the public breakdown they'd predicted I'd have. Ryan, I tried one last time, but Clara was already beside him, playing the supportive friend. We'll take care of him, Margaret promised, while you get the help you need. As they led me out, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the cafe window. Wild-eyed, disheveled, exactly how they wanted me to look. How they planned for me to look. The news cameras rolled as I was guided into the police car. Through the window, I watched Clara comfort Ryan. Margaret standing protectively nearby. The perfect family tableau, with me cast as the unstable outsider who tried to destroy their happiness. Don't worry, the officer said kindly. The facility has an excellent reputation. The same facility where Jessica had been held. Where Clara had threatened her. Where they'd perfected their technique. The car door closed, sealing me in silence. In the rearview mirror, I saw Margaret smile. The facility's visitor room smelled of artificial lavender and despair. 3 days of observation had taught me their routines, their blind spots. Now I waited, watching Margaret and Clara arrange themselves across the table, their faces masks of rehearsed concern. "The doctors say you're not cooperating," Margaret began. I smiled, the same empty smile Clara had perfected. "How's Ryan?" "Worried sick," Clara answered quickly. "He wanted to come, but you couldn't risk him seeing the real Jessica Martinez, could you?" Their mask slipped just slightly. Margaret recovered first. "The delusions are getting worse. Dr. Andrews warned us." "Dr. Andrews?" I placed a USB drive on the table. "The same one who helped you forge Jessica's commitment papers? He's been very cooperative since the FBI started investigating medical fraud." Clara's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. "You're lying." "Am I?" I turned to the observation window. "Frank." The door opened. Frank walked in, followed by Ryan and a woman I recognized from Jessica's photos. The real Jessica Martinez. "Hello, Clara," Jessica said softly. "It's been 3 years." Margaret stood so quickly her chair toppled. "This is inappropriate. My daughter-in-law is having an episode." "Your daughter-in-law," Ryan cut in, "has been working with federal investigators for the past 72 hours. Every conversation in this facility is recorded, including your little chat with Dr. Andrews yesterday." Clara lunged for the door, but Frank blocked her path. "Paul confessed everything," he said. "About the faked photos, the forged emails. He took a plea deal this morning." "You don't understand," Clara whispered, turning to Ryan. "Everything I did was for us. Margaret promised." "Margaret promised a lot of things," Jessica interrupted. "To a lot of women. How many were there before me, Margaret? How many lives did you and Clara destroy to keep Ryan under your control?" I stood, finally letting my mask fall. "The thing about marketing? We understand patterns. Narratives. Once Jessica reached out, it wasn't hard to find the others. 6 women. 6 mental breakdowns. 6 lives destroyed. You planned this," Margaret hissed. "Used your own commitment to trap us." I learned from the best. I moved closer, watching her facade crack. "But unlike you, I had something you never expected. Actual proof. Actual witnesses. And a husband who chose me." Clara screamed, a raw sound of desperation, and threw herself at Ryan. "She's lying. Just like the others. I'm the only one who truly loves you." The orderlies rushed in, but it was Jessica who spoke, her voice cutting through Clara's hysteria. "That's exactly what you said before you visited me here. Before you told me what would happen if I ever came back." Ryan stepped away from Clara's grasping hands. "It's over, Clara. The FBI has everything. The fake documents, the surveillance footage, Dr. Andrews' confession. Even Mom's offshore accounts where she paid everyone off." Margaret's composure finally shattered. "You ungrateful." She lunged at me, but the orderlies were faster. I watched them restrain both women, their carefully constructed world crumbling around them. "You know what your biggest mistake was?" I asked softly, "assuming I'd play by your rules. That I'd break like the others." "You'll regret this," Margaret spat as they led her away. "You have no idea what I'm still capable of." "Actually," Frank interrupted, "we do. That's why I gave the FBI access to all your private accounts this morning, including the ones in the Caymans." Clara's sobs echoed down the hallway. Ryan took my hand as Jessica spoke with the federal agents. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for doubting even for a moment." I squeezed his hand, watching Margaret and Clara being led away in handcuffs instead of me. "You came through when it mattered." Frank touched my shoulder. "The others are here. The women Margaret and Clara targeted. They're ready to testify." I nodded, feeling the weight of the past weeks finally lifting. We'd won, but the victory felt hollow somehow. Looking at Clara's broken form and Margaret's hatred, I realized revenge wasn't what I'd really wanted. Justice was. And as I walked out of the facility a free woman, I knew we'd found something better than revenge. We'd found truth. And sometimes that's the greatest victory of all. The courtroom emptied slowly after Margaret's sentencing. 20 years for conspiracy, fraud, and false imprisonment. Clara had taken a plea deal, trading testimony for a lighter sentence. Paul would serve 5 years for his role. Justice served cold and clean. I lingered in my seat, staring at the judge's empty bench, until Ryan touched my shoulder. Ready? Almost. I pulled out an old photograph I'd found while packing up his childhood home. Margaret, much younger, stood beside another woman who shared her calculating smile. The back read, "Margaret and Helen, sisters in arms." "Dad confirmed it this morning," I said. "Your Aunt Helen did the same thing to him that Margaret tried to do to you. Isolated him, controlled his relationships. It wasn't just about keeping you. It was about recreating her sister's perfect family fantasy." Ryan studied the photo. Helen died in a psychiatric facility. Dad always said she had problems, but now we know what really happened. I handed him another photo. Helen with a young Margaret, teaching her the art of manipulation. The pattern started long before us. Frank waited by the courthouse steps with Jessica and the other survivors. 6 women whose lives Margaret and Clara had nearly destroyed. Now they stood tall, unbroken. "The support group meets next week," Jessica said. "We're calling it Phoenix Rising." She smiled. "From the ashes, you know?" I watched them share knowing looks, these women who'd faced the same darkness I had. Their strength wasn't in revenge or even justice. It was in refusing to let the experience define them. "The house is almost packed up," Frank said. "Found this in Margaret's study." He handed me a leather-bound journal. "Might help explain some things. Or not. Sometimes understanding the monster doesn't make it less monstrous." Inside, Margaret's elegant handwriting detailed decades of manipulation. Not just of Ryan but of everyone around her. The last entry, dated the day before her arrest, read, "Tessa sees the game now. But she doesn't understand. It's not about winning. It's about playing forever." She thought she was teaching me. I realized. Every move, every countermove, she was grooming me to become her, just like Helen groomed her. Ryan took the journal, his face troubled. "We could burn it. End the pattern here." "No." I closed the journal firmly. "It belongs in evidence. For the next time someone like Margaret tries to play these games." We walked to our car, leaving the courthouse and its justice behind. Frank headed to his new apartment, free from Margaret's shadow. Jessica and the others dispersed, carrying their victory like shields against future darkness. At home, our real home, not the battlefield it had become, I found one last photo that Margaret had hidden. Ryan as a child, smiling genuinely, before his mother's manipulation had dimmed his light. Before Clara had been positioned as his savior. Before the games began. "We're having dinner with your parents tonight," Ryan said, watching me study the photo. "Mom wants to hear about the support group. My mother's cooking. My father's bad jokes. Simple things that Margaret had tried to twist into weapons. But she'd failed, because she'd never understood what real family meant." The doorbell rang, a delivery. Inside the package, a letter from Clara, forwarded by her lawyer. I started to tear it up, then stopped. Understanding the past didn't mean letting it control our future. I placed the unopened letter in a box with Margaret's journal and the old photos. Evidence of a pattern we'd broken. A legacy we'd refused to inherit. "Ready for dinner?" Ryan asked. I looked around our home at the life we were reclaiming. The shadows were still there, but they no longer held power. Margaret had wanted to teach me her game, but she'd taught me something else instead. How to end it. "Ready," I said, leaving the box of shadows behind. Sometimes victory isn't in winning the game. It's in refusing to play. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, on your own terms in the light.
Numbers have always fascinated me, especially the ones that don't add up. Like the $5,000 missing from our joint account, or the 3 nights a week Ryan claims he's working late, or the 2 wedding rings I'm staring at on our bedroom dresser. One his, one mine. Only mine is where it should be. I'm Fiona, and I used to write code that made numbers dance. Now I'm just trying to make sense of the ones that keep slapping me in the face. The bank statement trembles in my hands as I scroll through the transactions on my phone. Another withdrawal, this time for $3,500. No note, no explanation, just money vanishing like morning mist. The kind of money that could pay our mortgage for 2 months. "Ryan," I call out, my voice steadier than I feel. "Can you come here for a minute?" His footsteps echo down the hallway, each one matching my quickening pulse. He appears in the doorway, laptop tucked under one arm, that familiar half-smile playing on his lips. The smile that used to make me feel safe. Now it just makes me feel stupid. "What's up, honey? I'm in the middle of something important." "So am I." I turn my phone screen toward him. "Want to explain these withdrawals?" The smile doesn't falter, but something shifts behind his eyes. "Just some business expenses. You know how it is with the new project." "No, Ryan, I don't know how it is, because you never tell me anything anymore." He sets his laptop down with deliberate care. "Look, I know you're used to understanding everything, Miss Software Engineer, but some things in business are complicated." "Former software engineer," I correct him, the old wound still raw. "And basic math isn't complicated. 5,000 here, 3,500 there. That's our savings disappearing." "Jesus, Fiona." He runs a hand through his hair, exasperation creeping into his voice. "This is exactly why I don't tell you everything. You're just a housewife now. You wouldn't understand the pressures I'm under." The words hit like a physical blow. Just a housewife. 3 years ago, I was leading development teams. Now I'm just a housewife who apparently can't understand basic business concepts. "Try me," I challenge him, standing up. "Explain it to the housewife who used to debug systems you couldn't even comprehend. Don't start this again." He reaches for his laptop. "I have a meeting with Mark in 20 minutes. We can discuss this later." "With Mark at 8:30 in the evening?" "Yes, with Mark." His tone sharpens. "Some of us still have careers to maintain." He turns to leave, but I'm not finished. "Does Grace know about these late meetings?" Ryan freezes, his back to me. For just a moment, I see his shoulders tense. Then he laughs, but it sounds hollow. "Mark's wife? What does she have to do with anything?" "I don't know, Ryan. You tell me." He spins around, and now the smile is gone completely. "You know what? I don't have time for your paranoid accusations. When you're ready to act like an adult, we can talk about the finances." The door slams behind him, leaving me alone with the numbers that don't add up and the questions that won't go away. I pick up his wedding ring from the dresser, feeling its weight in my palm. He claims he takes it off to wash his hands, but it's been happening more frequently lately. My phone buzzes. A text from Olivia. "Coffee tomorrow. We need to talk." I text back a quick yes before opening my laptop. It's been a while since I've done any serious coding, but some skills never leave you, like tracking digital footprints, or following money trails, or piecing together patterns that others try to hide. Ryan thinks I'm just a housewife who wouldn't understand. He's about to learn how dangerous underestimating someone can be. The coffee shop bustles with morning regulars, but Olivia's face draws my attention like a beacon of worry. She's already ordered my usual black coffee, no sugar, and her fingers drum an anxious rhythm on the ceramic mug. "You look like hell," she says, as I slide into the booth. "Thanks. I feel worse." I wrap my hands around the warm cup, anchoring myself. Ryan's mother is coming over for dinner tonight. Apparently, she needs to discuss my concerning behavior with both of us. Olivia's eyebrows shoot up. "Emily's involved now. That's rich, considering she can't balance her own checkbook without Ryan's help. She called this morning, said she's worried about my accusations and how they might affect Ryan's career." The coffee burns my throat, but I welcome the pain. Funny how she's more concerned about his career than our marriage. "Have you shown her the bank statements?" Ryan got to her first, told her I'm becoming paranoid, unstable. I let out a bitter laugh. Apparently, giving up my career has left me with too much time to imagine things. A text notification lights up my phone. "Emily, bringing that lovely pot roast you used to love. We'll sort this all out tonight, dear." Olivia leans forward, her voice dropping. "Listen, there's something else you should know. I saw Ryan yesterday at Meridian Plaza." My stomach clenches. "The luxury apartments?" "He was with a woman, blonde, expensive clothes, around our age." Olivia hesitates. "They looked comfortable together." The description matches Grace Turner perfectly. I've met her twice at company functions, watched her laugh at Ryan's jokes, with practiced elegance. Did they see you? No, they were too absorbed in each other. Olivia reaches across the table, squeezing my hand. Fee, you need to protect yourself. Start gathering evidence, documenting everything. I already am. I pull out my laptop, typing rapidly. Remember that tracking app I developed at my old company? I modified it last night. Ryan's phone is already sending me location data. Olivia's eyes widen. Is that legal? It's our shared family plan. His phone is technically joint property. The screen fills with data points, each one a digital breadcrumb. Look at this pattern. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 2-hour stops at Meridian Plaza. The same times he's supposedly meeting with Mark. Exactly. I close the laptop, my mind racing. But Mark's usually at the downtown office on Thursdays. I checked his public calendar. The bell above the coffee shop door chimes, and Emily Carter walks in, her perfectly coiffed hair and pressed outfit, a stark contrast to my hastily thrown together appearance. She spots us immediately, her practiced smile never reaching her eyes. Fiona, dear, what a lovely surprise. She glides over, ignoring Olivia completely. I was just shopping for tonight's dinner. You are still planning to be there, aren't you? Wouldn't miss it, I reply, matching her tone. Ryan's so busy lately. It's rare to have him home for dinner. Something flickers across Emily's face, doubt, concern, but it's gone in an instant. Yes, well, success requires sacrifice. You understood that when you married him. She pats my shoulder condescendingly. 6:30 sharp, dear, we have so much to discuss. After she leaves, Olivia lets out a low whistle. That woman could freeze hell with a smile. She's always been Team Ryan. I start packing up my laptop. But maybe that's exactly what I need tonight. What are you planning? Emily prides herself on appearances, on her perfect family image. I stand, shouldering my bag. Let's see how she handles it when that image cracks. Fee, be careful. Ryan's got her wrapped around his finger. Maybe, I smile, thinking of the data quietly collecting on my laptop. But even perfect sons make mistakes, and I'm done being the unstable wife who imagines things. Walking home, I check my phone again. Ryan's location blinks steadily at his office, but a quick check of his credit card shows a lunch charge at a restaurant near Meridian Plaza. More numbers that don't add up, more lies piling up like kindling. Tonight, at dinner, I'll strike the first match. Emily wants to discuss my concerning behavior. Fine, let's discuss everything. Every withdrawal, every late meeting, every missing hour. Let's see how many cracks appear in the perfect family facade when the truth starts seeping through. Emily's pot roast sits untouched on my plate, while Ryan regales us with another story about his latest project's success. His mother beams, hanging on every word. But I'm watching his hands. The way his right index finger keeps tapping the stem of his wine glass. A tell he's had since I first met him. And Mark was so impressed with the presentation. He's considering me for the Singapore expansion. Ryan raises his glass. To new beginnings. Singapore? The word drops like a stone in my stomach. You never mentioned Singapore before. Emily jumps in. Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful? Such an opportunity for advancement. My phone buzzes quietly in my lap. A notification from my tracking app. Grace Turner's Instagram just tagged a new location, Meridian Plaza. I take a slow sip of wine, letting the pieces click into place. Speaking of Mark, I say carefully, how's Grace doing? I heard she's been quite busy lately. Ryan's finger freezes mid-tap. I wouldn't know. Mark handles most of her social engagements. Really, because I heard she's taken quite an interest in real estate. Particularly in Meridian Plaza. The silence that follows is absolute. Emily looks between us, confusion creasing her perfectly maintained facade. Meridian Plaza, isn't that where that horrible divorce scandal happened last year? The CEO and his secretary. Mother, Ryan warns, but I'm already pulling out my phone. Funny you should mention scandals, Emily. Would you like to see some interesting financial records? I slide my phone across the table. These withdrawals coincide perfectly with the rental payments for Unit 1504 at Meridian Plaza, the same unit Grace visits every Tuesday and Thursday. Emily's face drains of color as she scrolls through the transactions. Ryan, darling, there must be some mistake. There's no mistake. I stand up, my chair scraping against the floor. Your perfect son has been using our savings to fund his affair with his boss's wife. Would you like to see the location data too? Or the credit card statements from all those business dinners? Ryan slams his hand on the table, making the plates jump. That's enough. Mother, Fiona's been unstable lately. She's imagining. Imagining what? I cut him off. The lipstick on your collar last week? The mysterious calls you take in the garage? Or maybe I imagined Grace's car leaving Meridian Plaza 10 minutes after you every Thursday. Emily's hands shake as she sets down my phone. Ryan, please tell me this isn't true. Of course it's not true, but his voice cracks. That familiar tell when he's lying. She's trying to destroy everything I've built because she's jealous of my success. I laugh, and the sound surprises even me. Sharp and cold as broken glass. Success? Is that what you call embezzling company funds to keep your mistress in a luxury apartment? You bitch. Ryan stands, looming over me. You think you're so clever with your little tracking apps and investigations. You're nothing but a washed-up programmer playing detective. Ryan, Emily gasps, but I hold up my hand. No, let him finish. Let him explain to you why he's been stealing from our accounts. Let him tell you about the Singapore position. The one Mark doesn't actually know about yet, because it's just an escape plan with Grace. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a text from Olivia. Mark's on his way. Grace confessed everything. Ryan must see something change in my expression because he grabs his keys. This is ridiculous. I don't have to listen to these accusations. Running to Grace, I call after him. Better hurry. Mark should be there any minute. He freezes in the doorway, and for the first time, I see real fear in his eyes. Emily stands shakily, her perfect world crumbling around her. I trusted you, I say quietly. We both did. But you forgot something important, Ryan. You forgot that before I was your wife, before I was just a housewife, I was the person who designed the security systems you thought you could outsmart. The sound of a car pulling into our driveway makes Ryan flinch. Through the window, I see Mark Turner stepping out, his face set in stone. You wanted new beginnings. I pick up my wine glass, raising it in a mock toast. Well, here they come. The front doorbell rings, and 3 years of lies begin their final unraveling. Emily sinks back into her chair, her pot roast growing cold, while I stand ready to watch everything burn. Sometimes, revenge doesn't need to be served cold. Sometimes, it just needs perfect timing. The aftermath of dinner spreads through our house like a toxic cloud. Mark and Ryan's shouting match in the study has devolved into tense silence, while Emily sits in the living room, mechanically folding and refolding her napkin. I stand in the kitchen, washing dishes that don't need washing, listening to the tick of the clock on the wall. The front door opens and closes. Grace's heels click across the hardwood floor. I recognize her walk now, after all those surveillance videos. She pauses in the kitchen doorway, her designer outfit slightly disheveled, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. He said you were unstable, she says quietly. That you were imagining things because you couldn't handle losing your career. I place another clean plate in the drying rack. Funny how he uses the same lies for everyone. I didn't know about the money. Grace steps closer, her perfume mingling with the dish soap. He told me the apartment was from his bonus. There was no bonus. I turn off the water, finally facing her. Just like there's no Singapore expansion. He's been stealing from both of us. A crash from the study makes us both jump. Emily appears in the doorway, her perfect composure finally cracking. Mark's called the company's legal team. They're pressing charges. The words hang in the air like smoke. Pressing charges. The revenge I wanted now has teeth, and they're sinking deeper than I expected. Fiona. Ryan's voice makes me stiffen. He stands in the kitchen entrance, Mark's looming presence behind him. Tell them you made a mistake. Tell them you misunderstood the transactions. Like you misunderstood your wedding vows. The words come out sharper than I intended. Don't be dramatic. He steps forward, that familiar manipulative smile playing at his lips. We can fix this. Together. Remember when we first met, how you said you'd do anything for us? Ryan. Mark warns, but Ryan continues. I can explain everything. The money, Grace, all of it. But I need you to trust me one more time. For a moment, I almost want to believe him. 3 years of marriage, of shared dreams and promises, pull at me like gravity. Then I notice Grace's hand trembling as she grips her purse. See Emily's devastated expression, and something inside me hardens. Trust you. I reach for my laptop, opening files I've spent weeks compiling. Like you trusted me with this? The screen fills with transaction records, text messages, location data, a digital trail of betrayal laid bare. But it's the last file that makes Ryan's smile finally fade. Photographs from his private email, documenting more than just an affair. Corporate espionage? Mark's voice is deadly quiet. You've been selling our patents? Ryan lunges for the laptop, but I'm faster, stepping back. The money wasn't just for Grace, was it? You needed it to cover your tracks with your other buyers. You bitch. He swings at me, but Mark grabs him, pinning him against the counter. Grace lets out a small scream, and Emily sinks into a kitchen chair. I trusted you, I say, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Even when I found the first discrepancies, I wanted to believe there was an explanation. But you didn't just betray me, Ryan. You betrayed everyone in this room. The sound of sirens grows in the distance. Mark must have called them before confronting Ryan. Grace backs away toward the door, her face ashen. I'm sorry, she whispers, though I'm not sure to whom. Ryan struggles against Mark's grip. You have no idea what you've done. When this gets out, it already has. I show him my phone, where Olivia's text glows. Documents received. Legal team processing everything now. The sirens are louder now. Red and blue lights painting our kitchen walls like a garish nightmare. Emily reaches for my hand, surprising me. I should have seen it, she says softly. All those times he said you were imagining things. We all wanted to believe him. I squeeze her hand, watching as police cars pull into our driveway. That's what makes a good liar so dangerous. Ryan's face contorts with rage and fear as uniformed officers approach our door. In this moment, I should feel triumph, satisfaction, the sweet taste of revenge. Instead, I feel something unexpected. Freedom. The weight of secrets and lies lifts from my shoulders like a heavy coat, leaving me lighter, clearer. Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. Sometimes you have to set it free yourself. And damn the consequences. The police station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Mark's face as he slides a manila envelope across the interview room table. There's more, he says, his voice tight. The patents weren't just being sold. They were being weaponized. I open the envelope with trembling fingers, spreading out documents that make my stomach turn. Lines of code I recognize. My code, from projects I'd worked on years ago, twisted and repurposed into something malicious. Ryan didn't just steal from the company, Mark continues. He sold your old security protocols to competitors. They're using them to build backdoors into financial systems. The room suddenly feels too small, too bright. My protocols were defensive. They were meant to protect. I know. Mark rubs his temples. That's why we need your help. You're the only one who understands how these systems work. A detective enters, carrying coffee I didn't ask for. Mrs. Carter, we'll need you to testify about the original code architecture. No. The word comes out before I can stop it. I can't be involved. The evidence you have is enough. It's not. Mark leans forward. Without your testimony, Ryan's lawyers will claim the code modifications were authorized. He's already spinning a story about you hacking company servers for revenge. My coffee cup trembles, dark liquid sloshing over the rim. Of course, Ryan would try to turn this around, make me the villain. Even now, he's playing chess while I'm playing catch-up. My phone buzzes. Olivia, Emily's at my house. She found something in Ryan's old files. Come quick. I need time to think, I tell Mark, standing up. The detective starts to protest, but Mark waves him off. 24 hours, Mark says. That's all we can give you. The drive to Olivia's house feels surreal. Streetlights blurring past like stars. Emily meets me at the door, clutching a leather portfolio I recognize from Ryan's study. I was cleaning, she says, hands shaking as she opens it. I thought if I kept things normal. Inside are more documents, bank statements, offshore accounts, and emails dating back 5 years. Before our marriage, before everything. He planned this, Emily whispers. He chose you because of your expertise, because you could give him access to— Stop. The word comes out sharp enough to make both Emily and Olivia flinch. I scan the emails, each one a knife twisting deeper. Ryan discussing my capabilities with unknown contacts, evaluating my potential usefulness, planning how to convince me to leave my job. Fiona, Olivia starts, but I'm already moving, grabbing my keys. Where are you going? Emily calls after me. To finish this, the drive to the detention center, where they're holding Ryan, takes 20 minutes. I spend each one remembering every lie, every manipulation, every moment I doubted myself because he told me I was being paranoid. He's waiting in the visitation room, orange jumpsuit stark against his pale skin. The smile he gives me is the same one he used when telling me I was imagining things. I knew you'd come, he says. You always were predictable. Like how you predicted I'd quit my job to support your career. I lay Emily's portfolio on the table between us. Or how you predicted I'd be too broken to notice what you were doing with my old code. The smile falters, just slightly. Everything I did was for us. No. I lean forward, dropping my voice. Everything you did was because you underestimated me. You thought I was just a housewife who wouldn't understand. Be careful, Fiona. His voice hardens. You're not the only one with evidence. One phone call, and certain people will be very interested in your recent activities. You mean like the tracking software? The financial traces? I smile, and for the first time, I see real fear in his eyes. Go ahead, show them. Every line of code is documented, every access point logged. I learned from the best, after all. Standing, I gather the portfolio. I'm testifying tomorrow, not for Mark, not for the company, but for every person you've manipulated and betrayed. And when I'm done, you won't just lose your freedom, you'll lose your last shred of control. You'll regret this, he calls as I reach the door. You have no idea what you're starting. I turn back, meeting his gaze one last time. No, Ryan, I'm not starting anything. I'm finishing what you began. The door closes behind me with a final click, and I step into the evening air, my path suddenly clear. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about reclaiming your own power, one truth at a time. The courtroom feels like a trap closing in. Each tick of the wall, clock another tooth in the mechanism. I sit at the witness stand, my carefully prepared testimony crumbling, as Ryan's lawyer circles like a shark that smells blood. Ms. Carter, isn't it true that you developed the original security protocols while employed at TechCore? Yes, and these protocols were company property, correct? His smile reminds me of Ryan's. Practiced, predatory. The base code was. The modifications were made by my client under authorized company directives. He slides a document across to the judge. Exhibit C, Mr. Carter's project authorization, signed by the board. Mark shifts in his seat, his face dark. We hadn't known about this document. Another of Ryan's chess moves, played perfectly. Ms. Carter, the lawyer continues, please explain to the court how you obtained the tracking data on my client's movements. My throat tightens. This is the trap, the one Ryan warned me about. I used a modified version of company proprietary software you no longer had legal access to. The judge leans forward. Ms. Carter, did you illegally access company systems to track your husband? The courtroom spins. Everything I'd built, all the evidence I'd gathered, Ryan's lawyer is turning it against me, piece by piece. I catch Emily's eye in the gallery. She looks away. Your Honor, Mark's lawyer interjects. The defendant's activities were instrumental in uncovering corporate espionage. Ryan's lawyer cuts in smoothly. My client was conducting an authorized internal investigation into security breaches. Ms. Carter's unauthorized surveillance actually compromised that investigation. My hands grip the witness stand. The lie is so perfect, so carefully constructed. Ryan isn't just destroying my credibility, he's rewriting history. Furthermore, his lawyer produces another document. We have evidence that Ms. Carter attempted to access offshore accounts using company resources. Those were Ryan's accounts. I protest, but my voice sounds weak even to me. Accounts used in the authorized investigation, which you attempted to compromise. The judge calls a recess, but the damage is done. In the hallway, Mark approaches with his lawyer, their faces grim. He planned this, Mark says, quietly. The board authorization, the investigation cover story. He's been setting this up for months. What about the patent sales, the stolen money? All documented under official company operations. Mark's lawyer shakes his head. He had paperwork for everything. We can't prove it was fraudulent without my testimony. I lean against the wall, feeling the cold marble against my spine, which he just destroyed. Olivia appears, clutching her phone. Fiona, it's worse. Someone leaked your tracking software to the press. They're calling it corporate surveillance, saying you were spying on multiple employees. Ryan, I whisper, of course. He's not just discrediting my testimony. He's making me the villain of the story. Grace passes by with her lawyer, not meeting anyone's eyes. She's cut a deal, I realize. Ryan's offered her immunity in exchange for supporting his version of events. My phone buzzes. An email from the district attorney. They're considering charges against me for corporate espionage and illegal surveillance, the very crimes I was trying to expose. We can fight this, Mark starts, but I shake my head. He wins. The words taste like ash. He took everything I had, my marriage, my career, my reputation, and turned it into a weapon against me. Emily approaches hesitantly, holding a newspaper. The headline makes my stomach lurch. Tech wife's revenge. Plot exposes corporate privacy concerns. I'm sorry, she whispers. I never thought he would. None of us did. I push away from the wall, walking toward the courthouse doors. Outside, reporters wait with cameras and microphones, ready to capture my fall from grace. Behind me, I hear Olivia calling my name, but I keep walking. 3 years of marriage, 15 years of career experience, a lifetime of trust and justice. All of it lies shattered on the courthouse floor. Ryan's words from the detention center echo in my head. You have no idea what you're starting. He was right. I thought I was fighting for truth, for justice, for revenge. Instead, I walked right into his perfect trap, becoming the villain in his carefully crafted story. The cameras flash as I push through the courthouse doors. Each burst of light, another nail in the coffin of my old life. Sometimes revenge doesn't just fail, it becomes the very thing that destroys you. The USB drive feels impossibly small in my hand as I stand outside Ryan's office. Through the glass walls, I can see him at his desk, basking in his courtroom victory. The security badge clipped to my blouse, courtesy of Mark's last act before his resignation, might be my final chance to set things right. Mrs. Carter, Ryan's assistant, blinks in surprise. I didn't think. It's fine, Sarah. Ryan's voice carries that familiar condescending warmth. Let her in. I think my wife and I are overdue for a chat. The door clicks shut behind me. Ryan leans back, adjusting his tie, the blue one I gave him for our 2nd anniversary. Come to concede defeat properly? Instead of answering, I plug the USB drive into his computer. His smile falters as dozens of windows pop up on his screen. What is this? The truth. My voice stays steady as I perch on the edge of his desk. Not the sanitized version you fed the court, the real logs, showing every transaction, every meeting, every lie. He starts to reach for the computer, but I catch his wrist. Touch it, and these files automatically upload to every board member, the SEC, and 3 major tech blogs. You're bluffing. But uncertainty creeps into his voice. The court already ruled. The court ruled on what they could prove. But you taught me well, Ryan. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about winning. It's about having better leverage. His screen fills with more documents. The real board authorizations, showing his forgeries. Grace's original emails, detailing their plan. The actual financial trails he thought he'd hidden. How did you get access? You really should change your passwords more often. Emily Carter 58 isn't exactly cryptographic genius. The color drains from his face as he scrolls through the files. This will destroy everything. The company, the deals, your perfect facade. I stand, moving toward the door. That's the point. Wait. He rises, desperation replacing his usual confidence. We can make a deal, whatever you want, money, position, full confession. Like the deal you made with Grace? The words strike like physical blows. Or the one you made with those tech companies, selling out everything I built? I did it for us. He slams his hand on the desk. Everything I built, every move I made, was for yourself. Emily's voice cuts through the room. She stands in the doorway, holding her own USB drive. I found your original plans, Ryan. From before you even met Fiona. Ryan's face contorts. Mother, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Emily steps inside, closing the door. I understood when I found your notes about targeting Fiona for her expertise. I understood when I discovered your offshore accounts, the ones you've had since before the marriage. You helped me destroy her credibility. He snarls. You sided with me. I protected you, like I always have. Emily's voice cracks. But I can't protect you from this. His computer chimes. New windows opening. Board members responding to emergency messages. Security alerts flashing across the screen. What have you done? Ryan whispers. Nothing you haven't already done to yourself. I move toward the door. The board has everything now. The real documents, the genuine trails. Your perfect trap is about to snap shut on you instead. He lunges for his phone, but it's already too late. Through the glass walls, we can see security approaching, followed by stern-faced board members. You'll go down with me, he threatens. Everything you did was documented and authorized. I hold up another drive. Mark signed off on my internal investigation before he resigned. Everything I did was legal, unlike your corporate espionage. The door opens. Board members file in, their faces grim. Ryan straightens his tie one last time, trying to summon his old confidence, but it crumbles under the weight of truth. Sometimes, I say quietly, the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about letting them destroy themselves. As security escorts Ryan out, Emily touches my arm. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. We see what we want to see. I watch Ryan disappear down the hallway, his shoulders finally slumped in defeat. Until we can't anymore. The board chairman approaches with a thick envelope. Mrs. Carter, we'd like to discuss your future with the company. I take the envelope, feeling its weight, not just paper, but possibility. Sometimes revenge doesn't end in destruction. Sometimes it ends in resurrection. The corner office still smells of fresh paint and new beginnings. My laptop screen glows with lines of code. Not weapons or traps this time, but shields. Protection. The irony doesn't escape me that I'm rebuilding the very security systems Ryan tried to destroy. A knock at the door interrupts my coding flow. Olivia stands there, holding a newspaper. Thought you might want to see this. The headline reads, Tech Executive Pleads Guilty to Corporate Espionage. Below it, a smaller headline. Former employee, appointed head of security division. Strange, Olivia says, perching on my desk. They didn't mention you were his wife. Ex-wife. I close the newspaper. And that's exactly how I want it. My phone buzzes. A text from Emily. signed the house over today. It's yours now. I type back a quick thank you, remembering our last conversation in the kitchen, where everything started. She'd said something that stuck with me. Sometimes the strongest walls aren't the ones we build around ourselves, but the ones we tear down. The elevator chimes, and Grace steps out, clutching a cardboard box. Her eyes meet mine through the glass walls. For a moment, we just look at each other, two women who trusted the same lie. She sets the box by the reception desk and leaves without a word. Inside, I know I'll find the evidence she kept as insurance against Ryan, now surrendered as her final act of penance. The board meeting starts in 10, Olivia reminds me. Ready to present the new security protocols? I stand, smoothing my blazer. Almost. Just need to finish this last sequence. My fingers fly over the keyboard, adding one final layer to the system. Not just protection against external threats, but internal ones too. A safeguard against the kind of manipulation and betrayal that Ryan specialized in. You know, Olivia says quietly, when you first found those withdrawals, I thought you were going to destroy him. I did too. I save the code and close my laptop. But revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction. The conference room fills with board members, their faces expectant. As I set up my presentation, I catch a glimpse of my reflection in the window. No longer the housewife who wouldn't understand, but not quite the same engineer I was before either. Something new, forged in the fire of betrayal and tempered by choice. My phone buzzes one last time. An unknown number. You were right. About everything. R. I delete the message without responding. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Mrs. Carter, the board chairman gestures for me to begin. Show us what you've created. I stand before them, my presentation ready, but instead of launching into technical specifications, I start with a simple truth. Security isn't just about keeping threats out. It's about recognizing them before they become part of your foundation. The board members lean forward, interested. Through the glass walls, I can see Olivia giving me a thumbs up, while Emily waves from the reception area, dropping off lunch like she still does sometimes. Not out of obligation now, but choice. My new security system fills the screen behind me. Complex, elegant, and unlike anything Ryan could have twisted or sold. Because this time, it's built not just with code, but with understanding. Understanding of how trust can be weaponized, how love can blind, and how strength sometimes means letting go of the very revenge you thought you needed. The system has one unique feature, I explain, pulling up the final screen. It learns from every attempt to breach it, growing stronger not by building higher walls, but by understanding why people try to climb them in the first place. As I launch into the technical details, I realize that's exactly what I've done too. Grown stronger not by destroying Ryan, but by understanding how he almost destroyed me. The revenge I thought I wanted has transformed into something else entirely. Not an ending, but a beginning. The code on the screen pulses with possibility. Each line a promise of protection. Each function a lesson learned. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. Sometimes it's about getting better. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's about building something so strong that the past becomes nothing more than a shadow against its walls.
Money has a way of turning family into strangers. I learned this truth on a Tuesday afternoon, staring at my laptop screen while my coffee grew cold beside me. The numbers didn't lie. $50,000, gone. Just like that. I'm Delilah, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I had my life figured out. The joint savings account Nathan and I built over 12 years of marriage was supposed to be Lucas's college fund. Now it's just a string of red numbers and unauthorized withdrawals. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling slightly as I scrolled through the transaction history. Each withdrawal felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. 3 separate transfers, all to the same unknown account, all within the past month. Mom, can you help me with my science project? Lucas's voice floated down from upstairs, innocent and unaware that his future was evaporating with each revelation on my screen. Just a minute, sweetheart. My voice remained steady, a miracle considering the hurricane brewing inside me. I clicked through to another statement, hoping to find some explanation that wouldn't destroy everything I thought I knew about my husband. My phone buzzed. Nathan's face appeared on the screen, his usual charming smile now seeming like a mask I'd been too blind to see through. I let it ring. "Everything okay down there?" Lucas appeared at the bottom of the stairs, clutching his project materials. His dark eyes, so much like his father's, watched me with that perceptive gaze that sometimes made me forget he was only 10. "Of course." I forced a smile, closing the laptop. "Show me what you're working on." As Lucas spread his solar system model across the dining room table, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Megan, Nathan's sister. Her timing was suspicious. It always was. She had a way of inserting herself into our lives at precisely the wrong moments. "Aunt Megan's calling," Lucas noted, carefully positioning Jupiter in its orbit. "She'll leave a message." I focused on helping him attach the rings around Saturn, but my mind kept circling back to those transactions. Nathan had been spending more time with Megan lately, talking about some investment opportunity she'd discovered. I dismissed my concerns, trusted his judgment. Fool me once. The doorbell rang, startling us both. Through the front window, I spotted Megan's Mercedes in our driveway, its presence as unwelcome as a storm cloud at a picnic. "Lucas, why don't you take your project upstairs? I need to talk to Aunt Megan." He gathered his planets slowly, reading the tension in my voice. "Is something wrong?" "Nothing for you to worry about." I kissed the top of his head, watching him disappear upstairs before opening the door. Megan burst in like she owned the place, designer purse swinging from her arm. "Why aren't you answering your phone? Nathan's been trying to reach you." "Funny you should mention Nathan." I closed the door quietly, conscious of Lucas upstairs. "I've just been looking at our bank statements." Something flickered across Megan's perfectly made-up face. Surprise? Fear? Before she composed herself. "Oh? And?" $50,000, Megan. Gone." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Want to tell me about this amazing investment opportunity you've been discussing with my husband?" She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Delilah, you're being dramatic. Nathan knows what he's doing. It's a temporary situation. Get out." The words came out soft but sharp. "Excuse me? Get out of my house." I opened the door. "And tell my husband he better have a damn good explanation when he gets home." After she left, I stood in the silence of my living room, listening to Lucas humming upstairs as he worked on his project. $50,000. Our safety net, Lucas's future, my trust, all vanished in a series of digital transactions. My phone buzzed again. "Nathan." This time, I answered. "We need to talk," I said before he could speak. "Delilah, I can explain everything." "Yes," I cut him off. My voice as cold as the coffee I'd left forgotten on my desk. "You will." The front door opened at exactly 7:43. I knew because I'd been watching the clock since 6, sitting in the darkness of our living room, waiting. Nathan's footsteps hesitated in the entryway. He must have noticed the absence of dinner smells, the unusual quiet. "Delilah?" His voice carried that familiar note of charm, the one that had gotten him out of trouble so many times before. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" I reached over and switched on the lamp. The bank statements lay spread across the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. "Sit down." He loosened his tie, trying to read my expression. "Listen, about those calls. $50,000, Nathan." The words tasted like acid. "Were you ever going to tell me, or did you think I wouldn't notice?" His face did something complicated, surprise melting into guilt, then shifting to defensive anger. "It's not what you think. Megan found this investment opportunity." "Stop." I stood up, my hands shaking. "Don't you dare blame your sister for this. You made those transfers. You took our son's college fund." "It's temporary." He stepped closer, hands raised like he was approaching a wild animal. "The returns are guaranteed. In 3 months, we'll have double. Double nothing is still nothing." I pushed the latest statement toward him. "The account you transferred to doesn't exist anymore. Did you know that?" Color drained from his face. "That's impossible. Megan says a lot of things." I crossed my arms, fighting the urge to scream. "While you were busy playing investor, I called the bank. They're launching a fraud investigation." "You did what?" His charm vanished entirely now, replaced by something uglier. You had no right. No right? My laugh sounded strange even to me. It's my name on that account, too. My years of savings, our son's future. From upstairs came the soft creak of floorboards. Lucas should have been asleep an hour ago. The thought of him listening to this made my chest ache. I can fix this, Nathan insisted, running his hands through his hair. Megan has connections. She knows how to spend other people's money. I picked up my phone, showing him the photos I'd taken earlier. Your sister bought a new Mercedes last week. Funny timing, don't you think? That's different. She got a bonus at work. She got fired 3 months ago. The words hung in the air between us. Greg told me this afternoon. She's been lying to everyone. Nathan sank onto the couch, his world visibly crumbling. No, there has to be some mistake. The only mistake was trusting either of you. I moved toward the stairs, needing to check on Lucas. I've already frozen the remaining accounts. Whatever scheme you and Megan cooked up, it's over. Delilah, wait. He grabbed my arm. We can work this out. For Lucas, I jerked away. Don't you dare use our son as a shield, not after what you've done. Mom? Lucas's voice drifted down from the top of the stairs. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, sweetheart. I forced my voice to stay steady. Go back to bed. Nathan stood, straightening his tie like armor. I should talk to Megan, get this sorted out. Of course you should. I headed up the stairs. Run to your sister. It's what you always do. That's not fair. Neither is stealing from your own child. I paused, looking back at him. When you come home tomorrow, bring answers. Real ones. Or don't come home at all. After tucking Lucas back into bed and assuring him everything was fine, another lie to add to the growing pile, I sat in the hallway, listening to Nathan's car start up and drive away. My phone buzzed with a text from Evelyn. Are you all right? Nathan just called, sounding upset. I stared at the message, wondering how much she knew about her daughter's schemes. How many other families had Megan destroyed with her promises of easy money? Another text arrived, this one from Greg. We need to talk. About Megan. And the money. I saved his number, a plan already forming. If Megan wanted to play games with other people's lives, she was about to learn she wasn't the only one who knew how to keep secrets. Greg chose the diner on the edge of town, far from the usual places where family might spot us. I found him in a corner booth, his suit wrinkled, tie loosened, a man who hadn't slept well in days. You look like hell, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. You should see my bank account. He pushed a folder across the table. 3 months of statements, different account, same story. Inside were transfer records that mirrored my own, large sums vanishing into phantom investments. But these numbers were bigger, much bigger. 200,000? My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. Greg, how? Inheritance from my father. His laugh was hollow. Megan convinced me it was just sitting there, doing nothing, said she had inside information about a tech startup. The waitress appeared with coffee refills. We sat in silence until she left, both staring at the damning papers between us. Nathan doesn't know, does he? Greg asked. About my situation? Nathan doesn't know much these days. I traced the rim of my cup. He's still defending her, thinks this is all some misunderstanding. It's not. Greg leaned forward, lowering his voice. Last week I followed her to a meeting, not with investors, with a gambling addiction counselor. She missed the appointment, went shopping instead. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Where are you? We need to talk. I ignored it. How long has this been going on? The gambling? Years, probably. But the stealing? Greg rubbed his face. I found old accounts, Delilah, other families, other investments. She's been doing this since before we were married. The diner's fluorescent lights suddenly felt too bright, the air too thin. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only one who might help me stop her. He pulled out another document, a police report. I tried going to the authorities. She convinced them I authorized everything, even showed them signed papers. Did you sign them? No. His hands clenched, but they look real enough. My phone buzzed again. Megan this time. Family dinner tonight. Mother insists. Don't make things difficult. She's planning something, I said, showing Greg the message. Your wife never arranges family dinners unless she wants an audience. Then maybe it's time she had one. Greg's expression hardened. I have more documents at home, records of where the money really went, casino receipts, luxury purchases, all while she claimed to be investing our savings. The waitress returned with our check. As I reached for my wallet, Greg stopped me. There's something else. He hesitated. Megan's been talking to Lucas's school, asking about his college fund, claiming to be handling the family's educational planning. The world tilted sideways. She what? The school called me by mistake, thinking I was Nathan. They mentioned scholarship opportunities she was exploring, ways to restructure his educational savings. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, this time to call the school. The administrator confirmed everything. Megan had visited twice, presenting herself as Lucas's financial advisor. I'll kill her, I whispered, ending the call. If she touches my son's future. We need to be smarter than that. Greg's voice was steady. I have a plan, but you'll have to trust me, and we'll need help. Another text buzzed through. Evelyn asking if I was coming to dinner. Sweet, trusting Evelyn, who still believed her daughter could do no wrong. What kind of help? I asked, already knowing the answer. Your mother-in-law sits on 3 charity boards. She has connections, influence. If she knew the truth about where her daughter's donations really came from, I stared at the documents between us, thinking of Lucas, of Nathan's blind loyalty, of Megan's perfectly crafted lies. She'll never believe us without proof. Then let's give her proof. Greg gathered the papers. Tonight, at dinner, in front of everyone. My phone lit up one final time. Nathan again. Please come home. We can fix this. I typed back 3 words. See you tonight. Looking up at Greg, I nodded. Let's end this. The family dinner invitation felt like a summons to an execution. Mine or Megan's, I wasn't sure yet. I spent the afternoon in my office, staring at Greg's documents while my colleagues buzzed around me like nothing had changed. My phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. Photos. My stomach dropped as I opened them. Nathan and Megan entering a lawyer's office together. Yesterday's timestamp. Another photo. Them leaving an hour later, Megan clutching a thick envelope. A text followed. Thought you should know. E. Evelyn. Of course she had people watching her own children. I'd underestimated her all these years. My desk phone rang. Lucas's school. Again. Mrs. Parker, we wanted to confirm the transfer paperwork submitted this morning. My grip tightened on the receiver. What transfer paperwork? For Lucas's withdrawal. The forms indicate he'll be changing schools next month. They're signed by both parents, but protocol requires verbal confirmation. The room tilted sideways. I steadied myself against the desk. I never signed anything. Silence crackled over the line. The signatures appear legitimate. Perhaps you should discuss this with your husband. I hung up, hands shaking. My computer pinged, an email from Greg with more documents attached. Bank records showing Megan had opened accounts in 3 different states. A pattern emerged. Gain trust, secure investments, vanish, repeat. Nathan's name appeared on several transfers, not just recent ones. He knew. He'd always known. My office door opened. Speaking of devils, Megan stood there in designer clothes that probably cost more than what she'd stolen from us. We need to talk, she said, closing the door behind her. About tonight's dinner. I minimized Greg's email. I'm busy. Too busy to discuss Lucas's future? She perched on the edge of my desk, all calculated casualness. Nathan tells me you're being difficult about the investment opportunity. Difficult? I looked up at her, really looked. The perfect makeup couldn't hide the tension around her eyes, the slight tremor in her manicured hands. Is that what you call protecting my son from theft? Family helps family, Delilah. Her voice hardened. Nathan understands that. Why can't you? Does Greg understand? About the gambling? The other families you've stolen from? She flinched, barely noticeable but there. I don't know what you think you know. I know about the lawyer's office yesterday. I showed her Evelyn's photos. I know about the transfer papers for Lucas's school. Tell me, did you forge my signature or did Nathan do it for you? You're making a mistake. She stood, smoothing her skirt. Tonight's dinner isn't just dinner. Mother's announcing changes to her will. Family loyalty matters more than ever. The threat hung between us, clear as crystal. Play along or lose everything. You know what's interesting about fraud investigations? I kept my voice level. They love paper trails, records, patterns. Are you threatening me? No? I smiled, channeling her own practiced casualness. I'm promising you something. Whatever you and Nathan are planning, it ends now, or everyone learns the truth, starting with Evelyn, tonight. She laughed, but fear flickered in her eyes. You'd destroy this family over money. You already did that. I turned back to my computer. See you at dinner, Megan. After she left, I called Greg. Change of plans. We move now, not tonight. What happened? They're trying to transfer Lucas to another school, and Evelyn's changing her will. Silence, then. Check your email. One last document came through. You need to see this before we do anything. I opened the attachment, a trust fund statement in Lucas's name, established by Nathan and Megan 3 years ago. Empty now. They hadn't just stolen his college fund. They'd been planning this for years. My phone buzzed. Nathan, taking Lucas to Mom's early. Meet us there? I stared at the message, ice spreading through my veins. They weren't just after money anymore. They wanted my son. Greg, I said into the phone, how quickly can you get to Evelyn's house? 20 minutes. Why? Because I'm done waiting for dinner. Evelyn's house loomed ahead, all Victorian grandeur and manicured gardens. Greg's car was already parked out front, but Nathan's wasn't. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter as I pulled into the driveway. The front door opened before I reached it. Evelyn stood there, elegant as always, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Lucas isn't here, she said before I could ask. Nathan called. They're running late. Running. The word hit like a punch. Did he say where they were? The school, I believe. Something about paperwork. She studied my face. You didn't know? I pushed past her into the house, pulling out my phone. Greg appeared from the study, holding a stack of documents. Show her, I said to him. Everything. Evelyn's confusion shifted to concern as Greg laid out the evidence on her antique dining table. Bank statements, forged documents, photos of Megan's secret meetings. Mother. Megan's voice cut through the room. She stood in the doorway, perfectly poised despite the storm brewing around her. Don't let them poison you against me. Explain the other families? Greg's voice was ice. The ones before us? Or should we start with Lucas's empty trust fund? Color drained from Evelyn's face. What trust fund? My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Taking Lucas to dinner first, don't worry. They're not at the school, I said, showing them the message. He's lying, again. Megan stepped forward, reaching for the documents. This is ridiculous. Mother, they're trying to manipulate you before the will reading. The will? Evelyn's laugh was bitter. You think this is about money? She walked to her desk, pulled out a folder. I changed my will last month, left everything to Lucas, in a trust, one that neither of his parents can touch. The silence that followed was deafening. Megan's perfect mask cracked. You knew? She whispered. I've always known. Evelyn's voice trembled. About the gambling, the stolen money. I thought if I protected Lucas's inheritance, it would force you both to stop. My phone buzzed again. An email from the school principal. Nathan had withdrawn Lucas an hour ago. Destination, unknown. The room spun. They're running, with my son. Greg was already on his phone, speaking rapidly to someone. Evelyn gripped the back of a chair, her knuckles white. Megan, she said, where would Nathan take him? I don't. Megan's composure crumbled entirely. The airport, maybe? We have tickets, just in case. In case what? I advanced on her. In case your latest scheme fell apart? In case the truth came out? In case we needed options. She backed away. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Nathan was just supposed to convince you to invest more. Keep the money flowing until what? Greg's voice cut through her excuses. Until you'd bled us all dry? My phone lit up again. A photo from Nathan. Lucas asleep in the backseat of the car. The message below it froze my blood. He's safer with family who understand loyalty. Evelyn read the message over my shoulder. Without a word, she walked to her safe, opened it, and pulled out a phone I'd never seen before. I didn't want to believe it would come to this, she said, dialing a number. Detective Morris, it's time. Megan's face went ash white. Mother, no. Years ago, Evelyn continued, ignoring her daughter's plea, I hired someone to watch my children, to document everything, every transaction, every lie. She looked at Megan, every victim. My phone buzzed one final time. An alert from my banking app. Another transfer initiated, the last of our savings. They're going to take everything, I realized, unless we stop them now. Greg's hand found mine, squeezed once. We will. Evelyn hung up the phone, her voice steel. Detective Morris has units tracking Nathan's car, but we need to move fast. She looked at Megan. Unless you'd like to tell us where your brother's really taking my grandson? Megan sank into a chair, mascara tracking down her cheeks. I can't. Then I hope you're ready for what comes next, I said, heading for the door, because I'm done playing family. Detective Morris's voice crackled over the speaker. We've located Nathan's car at Marina Point. No sign of them yet. I gripped the passenger seat as Greg sped through traffic, Evelyn's SUV following close behind. Marina Point, where Nathan proposed 12 years ago, where we'd taken Lucas for his first boat ride. He's playing games, I said, checking my phone again. No new messages, just that last photo of Lucas sleeping. He wants me to remember the good times. Or he's trying to distract us. Greg's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Megan always said they had a backup plan, something about their father's old property. My phone rang. Nathan. Where is he? I demanded. Safe. His voice was eerily calm. Which is more than I can say for our savings. Did you really think freezing the accounts would stop us? Us. The word tasted bitter. You and your sister against your own son? I'm protecting him, from you, from your lies. A pause. Check your email. New message, video footage from our home security camera. Me and Greg meeting in secret, planning, talking about evidence. Looks suspicious, doesn't it? Nathan's voice hardened. The grieving wife, conspiring with her brother-in-law. What would Lucas think? You bastard? Language, dear. Lucas can hear you. My heart stopped. Put him on. Mom? Lucas's voice was small, confused. Dad says we're going on a trip, but I don't want the call cut off. Greg cursed, swerving around a slow car. They're not at the marina. It's another trick. My phone buzzed again. An email from our bank. Account closed. Transfer complete. They've taken everything. My voice sounded distant, hollow. The last of our savings, Lucas's college fund, Delilah. Greg's tone changed. Look. Nathan's car sat empty in the marina parking lot, driver's door open. On the passenger seat, Lucas's backpack. Detective Morris's cruiser pulled up beside us, lights flashing. We've got officers searching the docks. No boats have left in the last hour. I grabbed Lucas's backpack, hands shaking. Inside, his phone, turned off, his favorite book, a note in Nathan's handwriting. Remember our first sailing lesson? The boathouse, I breathed. The private one where he kept his father's old sailboat. Greg was already moving, but Evelyn's voice stopped us. Wait. She stood by her car, holding her phone. Megan just texted. Says if we involve the police, we'll never see Lucas again. Detective Morris stepped forward. Mrs. Parker, we can... No. I handed him Lucas's backpack. They're watching. They'll run if they see uniforms. Then what's your plan? Evelyn asked. My phone lit up with another message. A photo of Lucas on a boat, not at the marina, but somewhere else. Somewhere with trees reflecting in dark water. The lake house, Greg said suddenly. Their father's property. It's only accessible by water. That's 40 minutes from here, Detective Morris protested. Then we better hurry. I turned to Evelyn. Keep Megan talking. Make her think we're still searching the marina. And the police? I met Detective Morris's eyes. Give us an hour. After that, I couldn't finish. Greg and I ran to his car. As we pulled away, another message arrived. A video. Lucas sitting between Nathan and Megan on a boat, forcing a smile as Nathan pointed the camera at him. Wave to Mom, Nathan's voice said. Tell her about our adventure. Lucas's eyes met the camera, and for a second I saw fear. Real fear. Mom, he said carefully, remember when you taught me about chess? About thinking 3 moves ahead? The video cut off. Chess, Greg muttered. What's that supposed to mean? But I understood. Lucas's message wasn't for me. It was a warning. Nathan and Megan weren't running. They were setting a trap. My phone buzzed one final time. Nathan again. Coming to the lake house would be a mistake, but you will anyway, won't you? For Lucas. For revenge. Choose wisely. Greg glanced at me. We're walking into a trap. Yes, I said, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. We are. Because sometimes the only way to win is to spring the trap, to let them think they've broken you completely, even if, in the end, they have. The lake house emerged from the darkness like a forgotten memory, its windows glowing amber against the night. Greg cut the headlights as we approached, gravel crunching under the tires. Their car's here, he whispered, and Megan's. A figure moved past a window, Nathan pacing. Through another, I caught a glimpse of Lucas sitting at the kitchen table, head bent over what looked like homework, playing normal like this was just another family evening. My phone vibrated. Evelyn, police are 20 minutes out. Megan suspects nothing. Ready? Greg asked, checking his phone, the recording app active, catching every sound. I nodded, stepping out into the cold air. The lake stretched behind the house like black glass, reflecting nothing. Nathan opened the door before we reached it. Right on time. His smile was all wrong. Lucas, look who's here. Lucas's head snapped up, relief flooding his face before Megan's hand landed on his shoulder, keeping him seated. Family reunion, she said, her perfect makeup unable to hide the strain around her eyes. How sweet. Where's the money, Megan? Greg's voice was ice. Safe. She squeezed Lucas's shoulder. Unlike some things. Mom, Lucas said carefully, I finished my math homework. All the numbers add up now. Nathan frowned. What? The numbers? I cut in, understanding Lucas's message. Like the offshore account numbers in your father's old files? The ones you thought Evelyn didn't know about? Megan's composure cracked. What files? The ones Detective Morris is reviewing right now. I stepped forward. Every transaction, every victim, every lie. You're bluffing. But Nathan's charm was slipping. Mother doesn't what? Evelyn's voice rang from the doorway. Know about the gambling debts, the other families you've destroyed? Or how about the real reason your father changed his will before he died? Megan released Lucas, turning pale. You can't prove. The recording app on my phone says otherwise. Greg held up his device. Been running since we arrived, and before that, every conversation for the past week. Lucas suddenly stood, knocking his water glass onto Megan's designer purse. As she jumped back, papers spilled out, bank statements, transfer records. Sorry, Aunt Megan, he said, not sounding sorry at all. Mom taught me chess, remember? Always think ahead. Nathan lunged for the papers, but Greg was faster. In the chaos, Lucas darted away from the table, running to my side. It's over, I said, holding my son close. The police have everything, the offshore accounts, the forged documents, all of it. You don't understand, Nathan's voice cracked. We had no choice. The debts were yours, Megan snapped. Your gambling, your mistakes. I just tried to fix them. By stealing from your own family, Evelyn stepped fully into the room. By destroying your nephew's future, sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. No, Megan grabbed her car keys. This isn't happening. Nathan. But Nathan stood frozen, staring at Lucas. At the son he'd tried to use as leverage. I thought I was protecting him. From what? Lucas asked, his voice small but steady. From Mom? Or from knowing what you really are? Red and blue lights flooded the windows. Detective Morris's voice boomed through a megaphone. House is surrounded. Come out with your hands visible. Megan broke first, running for the back door. Greg caught her arm as Nathan sank into a chair, all fight gone. You know what the worst part is? I said, watching my husband crumble. I would have helped you, if you'd just told the truth. Truth. He laughed bitterly. When has this family ever dealt in truth? Starting now, Evelyn said as officers entered the house, whether you like it or not. Lucas pressed closer to my side as the police led Nathan and Megan away. Mom, is it really over? I looked at my son, seeing strength where there used to be innocence. At Greg, who'd risked everything to expose the truth. At Evelyn, who'd finally chosen justice over loyalty. Almost, I said, holding him tighter. But we're going to be okay. Because sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about saving what matters most, even if you have to break everything else to do it. The courthouse steps felt colder than they should in spring. I watched Lucas climb them beside me, his tie slightly crooked, looking more grown up than any 10-year-old should. Ready? I asked. He nodded, glancing at the manila envelope in my hands, the final divorce papers, waiting for signatures. Inside, Nathan sat with his lawyer, his once charming smile replaced by something more genuine. Regret. Real regret, finally. Megan's seat beside him was empty. She'd taken a plea deal last week, trading information about other victims for a lighter sentence. Lucas. Nathan stood as we approached. I didn't think. I wanted to come, Lucas said, straightening his tie. Mom said it was my choice. Greg arrived with Evelyn, carrying more documents. The restoration agreements, the victim compensation forms, the price of betrayal, measured in dollars and cents. Before we start, Nathan said, there's something you should know. He pulled out an old leather journal. Dad's records, the complete ones. There are more accounts, more victims than Megan admitted to. Evelyn took the journal, her hands trembling slightly. You had this all along? I thought I was protecting the family legacy. His laugh was hollow. Some legacy. The proceedings moved quickly after that. Signatures, statements. The formal dissolution of promises once thought unbreakable. Through it all, Lucas watched, taking everything in with those observant eyes. There's one more thing, I said when it was done. From my bag, I withdrew a chess set, the one Lucas and I used to play with. This belongs to you now. Nathan stared at it, understanding dawning. The game you taught him. About thinking ahead. About consequences, Lucas corrected, touching one of the pieces. About protecting what matters. The door opened, and Detective Morris entered with more files, more evidence, more families to contact and compensate. It never really ends, does it? Greg asked quietly. No, Evelyn said, still holding her husband's journal. But we can choose how we face it. Nathan stood to leave, pausing beside Lucas. I'm sorry, he said. Not just for the money, for forgetting what family really means. Lucas looked up at his father, then at me. Mom says forgiveness is earned, not given. Smart woman, your mother? Nathan managed a sad smile. Maybe someday. He left before finishing the thought, shoulders bent under the weight of consequences finally faced. Outside, spring sun warmed the courthouse steps. Lucas ran ahead to where Greg waited by the car, leaving me with Evelyn. I have a confession, she said, opening the journal. I knew about Nathan's gambling, years ago. I thought if I just gave him enough chances. We all wanted to believe in second chances. And now? I watched Lucas showing Greg his newly straightened tie, proud of this small achievement. Now we believe in first steps instead. My phone buzzed. A text from the bank. The recovery of funds had begun. Not everything, but enough. Enough to start over. He'll try to come back, Evelyn said. When he served his time, made amends. Nathan was always good at comebacks. Maybe. I touched the chess piece in my pocket, the queen I'd kept. But this time we'll be ready. All of us. Lucas called from the car, eager to get to his chess club meeting. Some things hadn't changed. Some things never should. You know what the hardest part is? I told Evelyn as we walked toward the car. Realizing that revenge wasn't what I really wanted. Justice wasn't even enough. What was it then? I watched Lucas arrange his chess pieces on the car's back seat, planning his next game, his next move. Always thinking ahead now. Truth, I said. Just truth. Everything else follows from there. Evelyn squeezed my hand, understanding in her eyes. And the legacy? The family name? We'll build a new one. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. One choice at a time. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. Sometimes it's about getting free. and teaching your children to do the same.
The pink onesie feels like a slap across my face. I stare at the delicate embroidery. Emma, written in perfect cursive, and something cold settles in my stomach. Our son Noah is barely 2 weeks old. "Do you like it?" Ryan asks, his smile too bright, too eager. He's standing in our bedroom doorway, watching me unwrap his special gift with those earnest blue eyes that used to make me melt. Now they just make me want to scream. I'm Victoria, and 5 minutes ago I thought I had a perfect life. "It's pink," I manage, my fingers tracing the letters. Each loop of the E feels like a knife twisting deeper. And it says Emma. "Oh!" Ryan's face drops for a split second before he recovers. "Must be a mix-up at the store. I'll return it tomorrow." I fold the onesie carefully, methodically, buying time while my mind races. "The embroidery is custom. You had to special order this." "Come on, Vic. I've been working 60-hour weeks. I probably grabbed the wrong package at the boutique." He crosses the room, reaching for the gift box. "Give it here. I'll sort it out." I pull back, clutching the onesie to my chest. "Who's Emma?" "Jesus, you're being paranoid." He laughs, but it sounds hollow. "Sleep deprivation getting to you?" From the nursery, Noah starts crying. Ryan immediately backs toward the door. "I should check on him. I just fed him. He's fine." My voice comes out steadier than I feel. "Who is Emma, Ryan?" He runs a hand through his perfectly styled hair. A tell I've learned means he's scrambling for words. "This is ridiculous. I made a mistake with a baby gift, that's all." "You don't make mistakes like this." I stand up, still holding the onesie. "You're the most detail-oriented person I know. It's why you're the top realtor at your firm. You triple-check everything. Maybe I'm slipping." He flashes that winning smile that closes million-dollar deals. "Having a newborn does that to you." "Does what? Makes you order pink clothes with another baby's name for your son?" The crying from the nursery gets louder. Ryan gestures toward the sound. "He needs us. Answer me!" "There's nothing to answer," he snaps, facade cracking. "You're turning a simple mix-up into some kind of conspiracy theory. This isn't healthy, Vic." I walk to his closet, yanking open the drawer where he keeps his receipts. Another habit of his obsessive organization. The boutique receipt is right on top, dated 3 days ago. Custom embroidery for a pink onesie, size 003 months. "You ordered this deliberately." My voice shakes now. "Why?" He grabs the receipt from my hand, crumpling it. "Stop this. You're being hysterical." "Hysterical?" I laugh, and it sounds slightly unhinged even to my ears. "Our son is 2 weeks old, and you're buying baby clothes for someone named Emma. What am I supposed to think?" "Nothing. You're supposed to think nothing because there's nothing to think about." He's shouting now, matching Noah's wails. "This is exactly why I've been working late. You've been impossible since the baby came." The words hit like a physical blow. I step back, bumping into his dresser. A frame tips over, our wedding photo. 3 years ago, both of us beaming at the camera, so sure of our future. "How long?" I whisper. "How long what? How long have you been lying to me?" He stares at me for a long moment, jaw working. Then he turns and walks out, calling over his shoulder. "I'm going to check on my son. When you've calmed down, we can discuss your paranoid delusions." I watch him go, still clutching the pink onesie. Through the wall, I hear him cooing to Noah, his voice gentle and loving. Everything a father should be. But all I can see is that name, Emma, mocking me with its perfect stitches, unraveling everything I thought I knew about my life. I sit on the edge of our bed, smoothing the soft fabric across my lap. Somewhere in this city, there's another nursery being prepared. Another woman expecting a baby girl. And my husband knows exactly who she is. 3 days after finding the pink onesie, I'm sitting across from Linda at her kitchen table, watching her hands shake as she pours tea. The china cup rattles against its saucer, the good set she only brings out for serious conversations. "Ryan's been different lately," I say, measuring each word. "Have you noticed?" Linda's eyes dart to the window, then back to me. Different how? Working late, distracted. He bought. I stop, my throat tight. He ordered baby clothes, pink ones, with another name on them. The teacup freezes halfway to her lips. Something flickers across her face. Not surprise, I realize with a cold certainty. Recognition. Victoria, dear. She sets the cup down without drinking. Marriage isn't always easy, especially with a new baby. That's not an answer. She smooths the tablecloth, a nervous gesture I've never seen before. What exactly are you asking me? I'm asking if you know something about Ryan, about. I force the name out. Emma. The color drains from her face. I think you should talk to Ryan about this. I tried. He called me paranoid, hysterical. My laugh comes out bitter. Blamed it on postpartum hormones. Linda stands abruptly, busying herself at the sink. Men can be insensitive sometimes. When Tom and I were first married. Please don't. My voice cracks. Don't make excuses for him. Just tell me the truth. She turns, and I see tears in her eyes. What truth would help right now? What could I possibly say that wouldn't make things worse? The confirmation in her evasion hits me like a physical blow. You knew he was. I can't finish the sentence. I suspected. She whispers it like a confession. The way he talked about his new interior designer at work. How defensive he got when Tom mentioned seeing him downtown with a woman last month. My hands curl into fists under the table. Last month? When I was 8 months pregnant? I told myself I was imagining things, that Ryan would never. She breaks off, wiping her eyes. He's my son. I wanted to believe the best. And what about me? The words taste like ash. Aren't I your daughter too? 3 years of Sunday dinners and holiday traditions, and you just watched him lie to me? Victoria! The front door opens, and Tom's voice booms through the house. Linda, is that Victoria's car outside? Linda's eyes go wide with panic. Please, she whispers. Don't tell Tom. He'll never forgive Ryan. I stand up so quickly, my chair scrapes against the floor. Maybe Ryan doesn't deserve forgiveness. Tom appears in the doorway, his usual stern expression softening at the sight of me. Where's my grandson? With Ryan. My voice sounds strange to my own ears. Having father-son bonding time. Everything all right? Tom's lawyer instincts kick in, reading the tension in the room. You both look fine. Linda cuts in too quickly. Just discussing new mother things. You know how overwhelming it can be. I stare at her, this woman who welcomed me into her family, who held my hand through labor, who's now choosing to protect her son's lies instead of my truth. Actually, I was just leaving. Stay for dinner, Tom insists. Ryan can bring Noah over. We'll make it a family night. Family! The word echoes hollowly. What kind of family builds itself on secrets and silence? I can't! I grab my purse, needing to escape before I scream or cry or both. Noah has a doctor's appointment. On a Sunday. Tom's eyebrows furrow. I meant tomorrow. I need to prepare. I'm already moving toward the door. Thank you for the tea, Linda. She calls after me. Victoria, wait! But I'm already gone, practically running to my car. Inside, I grip the steering wheel until my knuckles turn white, trying to steady my breathing. My phone buzzes. A text from Ryan. Where are you? Noah's fussy. I stare at the message, remembering all the times he texted me from work these past months. Was he with her then? Planning for their baby while I carried his son? Another text appears. Mom says you were just there. Everything okay? I switch off my phone and start the car. Linda chose her side. Now I need to choose mine. And Ryan's about to learn that calling his wife paranoid was the biggest mistake of his life. Ryan's phone lies heavy in my palm at 3 a.m. He's in the shower, his third night shower this week, always after those late client meetings. The lock screen shows Noah's face, a perfect mask of fatherly devotion. I know his password, have known it for years. His birthday backwards. So predictable for someone who thinks he's clever. My fingers shake as I type it in. The messages load instantly. Hundreds of them, all to someone saved as C Interior Design. My throat closes as I scroll, each text a fresh wound. Miss you already. Can't wait to feel her kick again. Our little Emma's going to be perfect. Pictures follow. A nursery in progress. Walls half painted in soft pink. Chloe. I recognize her from Ryan's office party last year. Standing sideways, hand on her pregnant belly. Ryan's arm around her waist, his smile brighter than any he's given me since Noah was born. The shower stops. I should put the phone down, pretend I never saw. But my fingers keep scrolling, desperate for the full scope of his betrayal. A video starts playing before I can stop it. Chloe's voice fills the silence. Say hi to Daddy. I fumble to mute it, but Ryan's already opening the bathroom door. Steam billows out behind him as he freezes, seeing his phone in my hands. What are you doing? I hold up the screen, showing him the paused video. Meeting clients at midnight, Ryan? He grabs for the phone, but I pull back. You're going through my private messages? That's illegal. Illegal? I laugh, the sound sharp and foreign. You want to talk about wrong choices? Give me the phone, Victoria. How far along is she? His jaw clenches. You're being 7 months? I cut him off. That's what the messages say, which means while I was dealing with morning sickness, you were getting her pregnant. It's not that simple. Really? Because the math seems pretty straightforward. He runs a hand through his wet hair, water dripping onto his shoulders. I was going to tell you. When? After Emma was born? Or were you planning to keep your second family secret forever? Lower your voice, he hisses. You'll wake Noah. Now you care about Noah? I stand up, phone clutched to my chest. Where was that concern when you were playing house with your designer? I never stopped caring about Noah. He steps closer, voice dropping to that soothing tone he uses on nervous clients. Or you. Things just happened. Things happened? My voice rises despite his warning. You accidentally fell into another woman? Accidentally got her pregnant? Accidentally ordered matching baby clothes? Give me the phone and we can discuss this rationally. Like you rationally discussed it with your mother. He stills. What? Linda knows. She's been covering for you. The betrayal tastes bitter on my tongue. Your whole family's been watching you destroy ours. That's not... He lunges suddenly, grabbing for the phone. I stumble backward, hitting the dresser. The wedding photo crashes to the floor, glass shattering. Noah's cry pierces the air. Now look what you did! Ryan snaps, reaching for the phone again. I dodge him, running for the nursery. Don't you dare blame this on me! He follows, but I'm already at Noah's crib, scooping up our son. Stay back. You're being hysterical. He holds out his hand. Give me the phone, take care of Noah, and we can talk about this tomorrow when you're calmer. Calmer? I clutch Noah closer as he whimpers. You have another baby on the way, and you want me to be calm. It was a mistake. Which part? Getting her pregnant or getting caught? His face hardens. You really want to do this now? Fine. Yes, Chloe's pregnant. Yes, it's mine. I didn't plan it, but I'm not walking away from my daughter. The casual cruelty of his honesty stuns me silent. I still love you, he continues, softer now. We can work through this, for Noah's sake. I look down at our son, his tiny face scrunched in confusion at the tension around him. Then at Ryan's phone, still displaying evidence of his other life, his other child. You're right, I say finally. We should discuss this tomorrow. Relief floods his face as I hold out the phone, but as his fingers close around it, I meet his eyes. And Ryan, pack a bag. You're not sleeping here tonight. Victoria. Or I'll send these messages to every contact in your phone, including your clients. I turn away, focusing on soothing Noah. Your choice. Behind me, I hear him curse softly, then the sound of drawers opening. I keep my back turned until the front door clicks shut, leaving me alone with our son and the shattered remains of our marriage. Tom's law office feels like a confessional, all dark wood and heavy silence. He studies the photos on his desk, screenshots from Ryan's phone that I printed this morning. Each image lands like a gavel strike. The nursery, the ultrasound, the intimate moments I was never meant to see. 7 months, Tom says finally, his lawyer's composure cracking. While you were carrying his son. I twist my wedding ring, a nervous habit I can't shake. Linda knew. Linda? His head snaps up. My Linda? She suspected, chose to stay quiet. The betrayal still tastes bitter. To protect him, Tom stands abruptly, pacing behind his desk. That's why she's been acting strange. All those whispered phone calls. He stops, facing the window. I saw them, Ryan and this woman, downtown, outside that new French restaurant. When? 3 months ago. He said she was a client. A harsh laugh escapes him. I believed him, even when she touched his arm, laughed too loudly at his jokes. I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Ha! That seems to be going around. I pull out one final photo. Ryan and Chloe kissing in what looks like an office. He's been staging properties for her design company. Tom turns, his expression hardening. The Anderson project? The one that got him promoted? I nod. Apparently, sleeping with the interior designer has its perks. Son of a... He cuts himself off, lawyer mode engaging. Have you spoken to a divorce attorney? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Smart girl. He sits back down, pulling out a legal pad. Ryan's name is on the house deed, but with proof of infidelity and the timing with Noah's birth. We can... I don't want his money. The words come out sharper than intended. I want him to feel what I'm feeling, to lose everything like I did. Tom's pen stills. Revenge won't give you peace, Victoria. Neither will letting him walk away to his perfect new family. No. He sets the pen down carefully. But it might give Noah a chance at having his father in his life. His father? I laugh bitterly. You mean the man who's building a nursery across town while I'm up all night with his son? Who's picking out names for his daughter while telling me I'm paranoid for questioning him? Victoria! A knock interrupts us. Linda appears in the doorway, her face falling as she sees me. I didn't know you had a client. Not a client. Tom's voice is ice. Our daughter-in-law, showing me some interesting photos of our son. Linda pales. Tom, I can explain. Can you? He stands again, trembling with barely contained rage. Explain why you kept this from me? From Victoria? I thought... She steps into the office, closing the door. I thought if I gave him time, he'd end it, come to his senses. And when he didn't? I asked quietly. When you found out about the baby? Tears spill down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I was trying to protect everyone. By protecting him, Tom corrects. Always him, even now. He's our son. And what about our grandson? Tom's voice rises. What about Victoria? When did they stop deserving protection? Linda collapses into a chair, sobbing. I didn't know what to do. He's always been so fragile, ever since Mark. Don't. Tom cuts her off sharply. Don't use his brother's death to excuse this. I look between them, sensing an old wound reopening. What about Mark? Ryan's older brother, Tom says after a long pause, died in a car accident when Ryan was 16. Linda's been overprotective ever since. He needed me, Linda whispers. And now he needs consequences. Tom returns to his desk, pulling out more papers. Victoria, I'm going to give you some names. Excellent divorce attorneys. But first, he fixes me with a stern look. What exactly do you want? I think of Noah, sleeping peacefully at the neighbor's house. Of Ryan's smug certainty that I'd never leave him. Of Linda's tears and misplaced loyalty. I want him to lose everything, I say slowly. His reputation, his promotion, his perfect image. I want everyone to see him for what he really is. Tom nods, understanding darkening his features. Then we'll need a plan, one that can't be traced back to you. Linda makes a small broken sound. You're going to help her destroy our son? No, Tom replies, already writing. I'm going to help her survive him. The weight of their broken family settles around us like dust, and I realize there's no going back now. Ryan's not the only one with secrets anymore. Chloe's design studio looks exactly like her Instagram photos, all clean lines and muted pastels. I watch through the window as she moves between fabric samples, one hand absently rubbing her pregnant belly. Ryan's baby, my replacement family. Tom's words echo in my head. Are you sure about this? But I'm already pushing open the door, setting off a delicate wind chime. Chloe turns, professional smile freezing as recognition hits. Victoria, you know who I am. It's not a question. She straightens, protective hands crossing over her stomach. Ryan told me you might come. Did he tell you about Noah too? Or did that detail slip his mind? Color drains from her face. I don't want any trouble. Funny, neither did I. I move closer, studying the ultrasound photo pinned to her mood board. Emma's a beautiful name. Please leave. Her voice shakes. I'll call security. Go ahead. I'm sure they'd love to hear how you and Ryan secured the Anderson contract. Those late-night design meetings must have been very productive. She sinks into a chair, defeat replacing fear. You don't understand. Try me, he said. She swallows hard. He said you were separated, that you'd agreed to divorce months ago, but wanted to wait until after the baby, after Noah was born. I laugh, sharp and hollow. And you believed him? He showed me papers, said you'd signed them. What papers? She reaches for her phone, hands trembling as she pulls up photos. Divorce papers, dated 6 months ago, with what looks like my signature at the bottom. My stomach lurches. That's forged. What? I never signed anything. I grab her phone, zooming in. He copied my signature from our mortgage documents. Chloe makes a small, broken sound. No, he wouldn't. Like he wouldn't sleep with his interior designer while his wife was pregnant? Like he wouldn't build a nursery across town for his second child? Stop! She stands abruptly, swaying slightly. You need to go. Why? Because the truth hurts? Because I'm having contractions. The words hit like a slap. I look closer. Her face is pale, beaded with sweat. You're only 7 months. 7.5. She grips the desk. And this isn't the first time. Doctor said stress could trigger early labor. Something shifts in my chest. Not quite sympathy, but recognition. Another woman trapped in Ryan's web of lies. Do you need a hospital? I need you to leave. Tears streak her makeup. Please, I can't. I can't process this right now. My phone buzzes. Ryan's name on the screen. Of course he knows I'm here. Probably has someone watching the studio. He's calling you too, isn't he? Chloe asks quietly. I show her my screen. She turns her phone around. Same caller. Perfect, Ryan, I say bitterly, always trying to control everything. Everyone, she corrects, then doubles over with another contraction. I should leave. Let her deal with the consequences of sleeping with a married man. Let Ryan clean up his own mess. Instead, I find myself moving forward, supporting her weight. Where's your hospital bag? What? You're in premature labor. You need medical attention. The words taste like ash, but I continue. I'm taking you to the hospital. Why would you help me? Because I know what it's like to be pregnant and scared. Because Emma deserves better than her father's lies. Because revenge doesn't taste as sweet when there's an innocent life at stake. I don't say any of this. Instead, I grab her bag from behind the desk, already packed, another sign of her high-risk pregnancy, and guide her toward the door. Victoria? Her voice is small, pained. There's something else you should know. About Ryan. About why he... My phone buzzes again. This time it's Tom. Don't do anything rash. New information about Ryan's past. Call me immediately. But Chloe's gripping my arm, face contorted in pain. And whatever secrets are lurking in Ryan's history will have to wait. Tell me later, I say, helping her to my car. Right now, we need to make sure Emma's okay. As we drive away, I catch a glimpse of a familiar car in the rearview mirror. Ryan's BMW, turning into the studio parking lot. Let him wonder where we've gone. Let him feel what it's like to be powerless for once. Besides, I think grimly, steering toward the hospital, there's more than one way to destroy a man's carefully constructed lies. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting the truth come to light on its own. The hospital waiting room feels like purgatory. I've been here 6 hours, watching doctors rush past, ignoring Ryan's increasingly frantic calls. Tom's message still burns in my mind. New information about Ryan's past. Chloe's in emergency surgery. Placental abruption, they said. Critical, but stable. Mrs. Sanders? I look up. A nurse stands there, clipboard in hand. I'm not her family. You're listed as her emergency contact. She consults her notes. Added this afternoon. Before I can process this, Ryan bursts through the doors, Linda trailing behind him. He spots me and freezes. Where is she? Surgery. My voice sounds distant, hollow. They're trying to save your daughter. Linda makes a small, broken sound. Ryan steps forward, face twisted with something between rage and fear. This is your fault, if you hadn't upset her. My fault. I stand, weeks of anger suddenly boiling over. You forged divorce papers, you built a life on lies, and you dare blame me? What papers? Linda asks, but Ryan talks over her. I was going to tell you everything, after Emma. After what? After you had your perfect new family? Your do-over baby? Don't. His voice drops dangerously. Don't talk about Emma like that. Why not? Isn't that what this is about? Replacing your brother's memory with a daughter named after him? The words hang in the air like smoke. Linda gasps. Ryan's face goes white. Tom told you. No. I laugh bitterly. Chloe did, right before she started bleeding. Told me all about how you convinced her to name the baby Emma, after your brother Mark's daughter, the one who died with him in that car crash. Ryan grabs my arm, fingers digging in. You don't know what you're talking about. Let go of her. Tom's voice cuts through the tension. He stands in the doorway, holding a manila envelope. Or should we add assault to the list of charges? Charges? Linda steps between us. What charges? Tom opens the envelope, pulling out documents. Fraud, for starters. Those forged divorce papers. Then there's the Anderson contract. Interesting how it was awarded right after you started sleeping with the interior designer. You can't prove anything, Ryan snarls, but his grip loosens. Actually, I can. I pull out my phone, playing a recording. Chloe's voice fills the space. He showed me papers, said you'd signed them. Ryan lunges for the phone, but Tom blocks him. That's inadmissible. In court, maybe. Tom's voice is ice. But I'm sure the ethics board would be interested, and your clients, and the press. A doctor appears, still in surgical scrubs. Family of Chloe Mitchell? Ryan turns, mask of concern sliding back into place. I'm the father. The baby's stable, but critical. We had to deliver early. Ms. Mitchell is asking for Victoria. Me? I blink. Why? Because. Chloe's lawyer steps into the waiting room, another envelope in hand. She's naming Victoria as Emma's guardian, in case anything happens. The room spins. Ryan makes a sound like he's been punched. She can't do that, he protests. I'm the father. An unmarried father, the lawyer corrects, who committed fraud and whose name isn't on any prenatal documents. Ms. Mitchell's wishes are quite clear. I stare at the papers being thrust into my hands. Guardian. For my husband's daughter with another woman. The revenge I wanted now feels like ashes in my mouth. Victoria, Ryan's voice breaks. Please, she's my daughter. My chance to make things right. Right? I turn to him, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not a monster, just a broken man trying to rebuild his life with lies. You can't replace what you lost, Ryan. Not with Emma, not with Noah, not with any number of perfect families. The doctor clears his throat. Ms. Mitchell is waiting. I look at the papers in my hands, then at Linda's tears, Tom's grim determination, Ryan's desperation. 3 weeks ago, I had a perfect life. Now I'm standing in a hospital, holding guardianship papers for my husband's premature daughter, while my newborn son sleeps at home with a neighbor. Take me to Chloe, I say finally. As I follow the doctor, I hear Ryan collapse into a chair, Linda's soft consolations, Tom's heavy sigh. The weight of their broken family, our broken family, settles onto my shoulders like a shroud. Some revenge stories, I'm learning, have no winners, only survivors. Chloe's hospital room is dimly lit, machines beeping steadily. She looks small against the white sheets, nothing like the confident woman from her design studio. Emma? Her voice cracks. Stable, in NICU. I hover by the door, unsure of my place in this twisted scenario. Why me? For guardianship? Because you'll protect her. She shifts, wincing. From him, from becoming another replacement. The door opens. Ryan stands there, looking wrecked. Chloe, please! Don't! She tries to sit up, monitor alarms spiking. You lied to me, about everything. I loved you, love you both. Like you loved your brothers, Emma? The words hit him like physical blows. Tell her, Ryan. Tell Victoria about the first Emma. He grabs the doorframe, knuckles white. This isn't the time. My daughter's fighting for her life because of your lies. Chloe's voice strengthens with anger. Tell her why you really chose me, why you needed another Emma. I watch him crumble, the perfect facade finally shattering. Mark was driving. The night of the accident. My niece Emma was in the back seat. Ryan! Linda appears behind him, reaching out. He jerks away. I was supposed to be there, was supposed to pick them up, but I had a date. Mark covered for me, like always. The perfect older brother, Chloe says bitterly. Until he wasn't. I saw Chloe at a client meeting. Ryan's words tumble out now, unstoppable. She looked like Mark's wife. Same smile. When she said she'd always wanted a daughter. You saw your chance, I finish, to rewrite history. I could make it right, give Emma the life she lost. By lying? Chloe's monitor spikes again. By manipulating me? Creating some sick replacement family, while your wife carried your son? I never meant to get caught? Tom's voice cuts through. He enters, holding more papers. The ethics board disagreed. They've suspended your license pending investigation. Ryan spins toward him. You didn't. I did. Tom's face is stone. Someone had to stop this madness. It's not madness, Ryan shouts. It's fixing things, making them right. By destroying more lives? I step between him and Chloe's bed. Noah and Emma deserve better than being pieces in your redemption story. Noah, he laughs, hollow. The son I never wanted? Another replacement? Courtesy of your biological clock? The room goes silent. Linda gasps. There it is! My voice is steady, surprising me. The truth, finally. Victoria! He reaches for me, but I step back. No. You don't get to touch me, not after that. I turn to Chloe. I accept the guardianship for both children. What? Ryan lunges forward. Tom catches his arm. Joint custody, I continue, between me and Chloe, once she's recovered. You can't. We can. Chloe's lawyer appears, right on cue. The papers are filed. Given the circumstances, the fraud, the ethics violation, your documented instability, I'm their father. A father who sees his children as replacements for his dead niece. Tom's voice cracks like a whip. The court will love that. Ryan crumples into a chair, head in his hands. Linda moves to comfort him, but stops, torn between her son and the wreckage he's created. Get out! Chloe's voice is weak but firm. All of you, except Victoria. They file out, Tom steering Ryan, Linda lingering at the door before following. The lawyer nods, promising to return later. In the sudden quiet, Chloe's monitors steady. I'm sorry, she whispers. For what? Falling for his lies. Helping him hurt you. You were manipulated. We both were. I sink into the chair beside her bed. But our children won't be. She reaches for my hand, surprising me. Noah and Emma. Real people, not replacements. Real siblings, I correct, surprising myself more. Whether Ryan likes it or not. Outside the room, I hear Ryan's broken sobs, Linda's soft murmurs, Tom's firm voice handling details. The family I thought I had crumbling, while something new and unexpected takes shape in its place. Victoria? Chloe's grip tightens. Promise me something? What? Help me make sure Emma knows her own story, not the one Ryan tried to write for her. I think of Noah at home, of the pink onesie that started this all, of the twisted path that led us here. I promise, they'll both know the truth, the real story. Not a revenge story after all, but something more complicated. A story of healing maybe, of choosing truth over perfect lies. The pink onesie sits on my kitchen table, next to divorce papers and custody agreements. 3 weeks since the hospital, since everything changed. Noah sleeps in his bassinet nearby, while I pack the last of Ryan's things. The doorbell rings. Linda stands there, looking older than I've ever seen her. He's in therapy, she says without preamble. Grief counseling. For Mark, finally. Good. I mean it, surprisingly. Come in, Noah just ate. She hesitates at the threshold. I wasn't sure I'd be welcome. You're still his grandmother. I step aside. And Emma's too, if you want to be. Her eyes fill with tears. How is she? Getting stronger? Chloe's moving into the guest house next week. I lead her to the kitchen. The doctors say Emma can come home soon. Linda spots the onesie, reaching for it with trembling fingers. I remember when the first Emma wore something like this. I'm not trying to replace her. The words come out sharper than intended. Neither of them are replacements. I know. She sets the onesie down carefully. That's why I trust you with them both. The front door opens. Tom, carrying moving boxes. He pauses, seeing Linda, then continues to Ryan's office. We listen to him work in silence. I found this. Linda pulls out an old photo. Mark and Ryan at the lake house. Before everything. 2 brothers grin at the camera, arms around each other. Ryan looks young, unburdened, happy. He was different then, Linda whispers. After the accident, he just stopped dealing with it, started trying to fix everything instead. By controlling it. Yes. She touches the photo gently. I enabled him. Thought if I just loved him enough, protected him enough. You can't fix someone by hiding their broken pieces. Tom returns, carrying Ryan's awards from the real estate firm. Where should these go? Storage, I decide, in case Noah or Emma want them someday. He nods, understanding what I'm not saying. Their father's legacy, complicated, painful, but still theirs to know. My phone buzzes. Chloe, sending a NICU photo. Emma's tiny hand wrapped around her finger. I show Linda, watching her face soften. She looks strong, Linda says, like her mother. Both her mothers, Tom corrects quietly. The doorbell rings again. This time it's Ryan, here for his boxes. He looks thinner, shadows under his eyes. I'll get the rest, Tom says, steering Linda toward the nursery, giving us space. Ryan spots the onesie, flinching. You kept it. For Emma, the real Emma. I fold it carefully. Not the one you imagined. He nods, throat working. The therapist says I've been chasing ghosts, trying to rewrite endings. And now I'm trying to learn how to live with the real story. He picks up a box, pausing. Will you tell them about Mark someday? The good parts? Yes, when they're old enough to understand. That their father's broken? That everyone is, in different ways. I meet his eyes. It's what we do with our broken pieces that matters. He starts to reach for Noah's bassinet, then stops himself. I'd like to see them sometimes, when I'm better. We'll talk about it, with the lawyers and therapists. He accepts this with a nod, gathering his things. At the door, he turns back. I did love you, Victoria, just not. Not enough to be honest? Not enough to face the truth. He shifts the box. Take care of them? Always. After he leaves, I return to the kitchen. Linda and Tom are back, watching Noah sleep. The pink onesie lies between us, no longer a symbol of betrayal, but something else. A bridge, maybe, between past and future. We should go, Linda says reluctantly. Unless you need help. Actually, I pick up Noah, making a decision. Would you like to come to the hospital? Emma's having a good day. Chloe said we could visit. Linda's face lights up. Tom squeezes her hand. As we leave, I grab the onesie. Not for the ghost of a little girl lost years ago, but for the real Emma fighting to come home. For the complicated, imperfect family we're becoming. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone's perfect lies. Sometimes it's about building something true from the wreckage they leave behind.